Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
What is going on?
We're just getting after it. It's a Friday.
That's about the one saving grace.
Is that it?
Yeah, that'd be about it.
You're leaving for New York on Monday?
Yes.
Yeah.
As of right now, the itinerary is not quite set.
Well,
I know. Believe me, I have.
Tell Coach Rule to get after it. Let's go.
It's not quite anxiety yet.
Where we're getting there?
Nah. I mean, no.
Okay, so if anxiety is like a 10,
No.
and like Joe Cool is a 0. Where are you? Are you like trepidation?
I'm probably a 4.
A 4? Okay, that's fair. Not quite to the halfway point yet.
Yeah, but we need to get into that 24-hour window here. Right. So, his wife sent a list of like packing.
Mm-hmm.
Might be the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
That is helpful.
It's the amount of detail.
Yeah.
Sick.
I appreciate that when people help me out that way because that does help relieve some of my anxiety that I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, the hard part is reading that thing.
What do you mean?
Oh, it's a Hemingway.
Oh, it's pretty lengthy.
It's extensive.
It's a novel.
Yeah. It's,
like Judy Blume.
It's very thorough.
Yeah,
thorough.
I think that runs in the family a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? And I didn't even think of that, but you're probably right. You're
I think they probably come by it honestly.
Probably right about that one. What about you, man? This is a late night for you if you watch.
I did, yeah.
Volleyball.
I was, I felt bad. Obviously, it's heartbreaking the way Nebraska volleyball season ended, but I'm sitting there.
It's a weird day emotionally overall, right? I mean,
super strange, like really strange, and we could get into that in a little bit. But I'm sitting there and like, oh, Nebraska's up 2-0, right? And I'm like, okay, they sweep this thing. I'm gonna get to bed at a decent hour. Like, let's go.
22-16, you felt good.
I felt pretty good. Yeah, 22-16, third set. I'm like, okay, we got this. I'm going to be in bed before 11. Let's get this thing done. And then all of a sudden it went from me worrying about what time I'm going to bed to actually be worrying about the result of the match, which I did not anticipate around like 10-15 or whenever it was 22-16 in the third. And so that was a strange kind of like shift for me where I felt
I knew I was in trouble emotionally. When it's 2-1 and I'm worried about challenges in the fourth set.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was.
Yes.
I was like, oh, shoot, come on. Huge three-point swing here. Swing here. And I'm like, wow, this is where I'm at.
There was some signs from Nebraska kind of throughout the night where I'm like.
Just too loosey-goosey?
Yeah, not quite sharp enough.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of been living on a little bit of borrowed time without a couple of ladies really playing well. And, I mean, it's not any singular thing, but, I mean, people are going to look to hitting percentages, and they're going to be like, man, what's going on with the Pens?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And it's funny because I'm definitely not Karch Karai, but I have watched this for, 30 years, minimum 35. And I always go back to this thing this was a broadcast a couple years ago that Lauren was doing with John Baylor, and she's been on it the last couple of years. Like, it's kind of a low cook thing. And she's always talking about setting the middle. Set the middle more. It doesn't have to necessarily be coming from the back or your pens. Just set the middle. And there was a stretch where Andy wasn't getting any swings. And I was like, fudge. Just give her a shot.
Especially after she'd been so good early.
Oh, she is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I kept going back. I'm like, if Lauren ends up being right about not STMing. And I just wanted Andy to kind of get some swings, but I mean, on a 12-4 run to close that thing out. That's
brutal.
In rally scoring, man, a lot of that's on Nebraska.
Yeah. 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, after that, I mean, Penn State cleaned it up quite a bit. They
gave them life, right?
They cut down on their attacking errors.
Nebraska gave them life.
Service errors.
And then they were putting a lot, and I took this, I think Matt DiMarina said it because he knows a lot more about this than I do. But Penn State seemed like they were putting a lot more pressure on Nebraska with their service than they were early.
Oh, yeah.
And made life a lot more difficult for them in the last couple sets, especially.
Oh, yeah.
And like that.
Nah, he's spot on.
That's a big shift.
And it's disruptive, too, for their passing. I mean, a lot of free balls.
Yeah.
It's just like.
Well, and even when they weren't, like the passing didn't feel real sharp.
No, I'm with you.
You know? Like there's certain things that you can kind of just pick up from watching sports and not necessarily being a volleyball expert where I go, hey, that doesn't maybe look as buttoned up as you'd like it to be.
It didn't look like the same.
Yeah.
That's a top 4 or 5 defensive team in the country, especially with, kill percentage.
Yeah.
They're top 10 in their service defense. And But
even in the first couple sets where they won, there were some moments where I'm like, that doesn't look great.
Yeah.
I think there was one in the first set where they had a free ball coming back from Penn State, and they just didn't handle the free ball right.
Oh, you talking about the miscommunication on the drop shot? Yeah.
And you're just like,
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, like that.
That was weird.
Stuff like that where you just kind of look at it and go, that doesn't feel like it should be happening.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of those throughout. I think there was a Harper Murray dig late that just kind of fell to no one that was in the air for quite a long time. And you're sitting there, you go.
Her body language changed quite a bit. You can see, and bless her heart, that's someone that has potential for anxiety to build.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I couldn't get her to.
It's about this time last year where things kind of started falling apart for her, right?
Yep.
And so you hope, like it would be natural to feel some additional tension that maybe other people aren't feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's fair.
And
I think that's fair.
And so, because I mean, that's just a human thing, right? Like you're put in this situation.
Listen, I love it and I hate it at the same time because that's the component that I think
the human part,
that people forget about.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I go back to a deal in the state finals. It's 4th and 2, and I'm not on the offensive side.
Mm-hmm.
It's just defense. And so I punch up to Coach Sikora and I'm like, hey, momentum, we're kind of reeling. What do you want to do? I click over to the offensive side. Only the second time that I only did it twice the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And guys were like, let's go. Even Coach Queen, even the defensive guys, let's go for it. And it was kind of a dual signal, a run pass signal.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get it executed correctly. And even a couple days later, I was talking to Coach Sikora, and there were so many other things that happened, right?
Yeah.
He's like, man, that was totally on me, right? Like, we got a run signal, we got a pass signal. I'm like, hey, man, I appreciate that, but that's just what kind of person he is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that wasn't it. We're taking on a little bit of water. I needed a momentum change, but those are the things that I can appreciate, because that is the human side of sports. You heard Coach Freud briefly, because he's not an excuse maker, briefly during the card game when he said, inexplicably, I can't get our headsets to work on the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But those are the things that can keep you up because that is the human element of sports. If you're a competitor, you have this uncanny ability to boil it down to singular events.
Yeah.
And I always say this. And everybody's different, and I don't think sometimes people aren't comfortable saying which side of the fence they stand on.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell you, I want to be the guy that it's my fault because
then you can fix it.
I can fix it.
Yeah.
Not everybody's wired like that, and there are pros and cons to both.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an empath, so I take on a ton of emotions that aren't even my own.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the rooms. Sometimes it's my family's. Sometimes it's players. Like it just happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can handle it. Sometimes I shut it down. Then there are other people. It's like they're okay with just saying, "Man, they're just better than me."
Yeah.
I could see you could give me the argument either way.
So you know what's funny is I've been both in my life. I used to be, hey, let's put it on me because that means I can fix it. But here's where I ran into trouble because it is a human element. And this is in sports too. This isn't just in my life. This is when I was playing sports too, was I would want it on me because then I had the control of the outcome. But what I didn't realize is I had this thing that was a fear of failure. And it wasn't just, hey, if you lose, you lose. It was, hey, if you lose, you're a bad person. That's how I felt. I internalized that.
And for me and for other people on that kind of stage, it's you're either a winner or a loser.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with the fallout of what people are going to say about you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand that, and it was hard to listen to some of the post games, and I'm consistent, right? And just because I'm a glutton for punishment, I listen to post games and losses too.
Yeah.
Right, and so you always listen for ownership, and unfortunately for some of those young ladies, they're going to boil it down to a singular moment. It's just alpha competitive behavior.
And you know what's funny?
A lot of people want it back.
Yeah. And
right?
You know what's funny about each of those women on that team is that most of them will probably boil it down to a different moment when they could have done. Not when
that was the example I was given with Coach.
Yeah.
Right? Like because that wasn't but he's he's competitive.
Yeah.
And he likes ownership.
Because from the outside, we'll look at it, and most of us, if we're dialed in, we'll say, hey, this is probably the moment where it turned for him, right? A stretch of moments for us where it goes from 22-16 to 23-22 or whatever it did in that stretch in the third set, right?
Yeah, they closed out 12-4, yeah.
I can look at that stretch and go, that's where they lost it, right? But if you're in it, you're going to take an individual moment where you didn't do your job the way you think you should have, and then you'll take ownership of that because you're looking for something that you can have control over.
Yeah.
The problem sometimes is, and this is probably not as common with high-level competitors as with people like me who didn't really ever play at a high level. No offense to, NCCAA basketball, but the
dummy
non-scholarship division. But sometimes that can then lead to self-sabotage because then you still feel like you have control over the situation.
Funny you say that. I just talked with two players at the high school yesterday and used the term self-sabotage.
Yeah. It's super common, especially when you're immature. Sorry.
It's incredible. I looked at Coach Lamanji. He looked at me and he said, "This is a maturity issue."
It is 100%.
Yeah,
I didn't grow up.
That's a absolute real, and we're talking to two what I would call great players.
I didn't grow up till I was 30,
and it's a
frame of reference.
Yeah, and and listening to Harp because it just that one is emotionally gets me just because
100%. Yeah,
I mean whatever, but what a difference a year makes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like what a difference a year makes in that moment because she's gone through it. And there's a little bit more
perspective
and experience.
Yeah. And I think, like last year, I thought the overwhelming emotion was anger. That's what
What'd you feel this time? Can I guess?
Go for it.
Disappointment?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's somewhere around disappointment, like somewhere in the neighborhood. I don't know what word I would use, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood of disappointment.
Do you feel they got beat by the better team?
I'm going to say no. I think Penn State's maybe closer to them than we thought, even after they beat them in the finale, the regular season finale. But and maybe this is being unfair, I look at some of the stuff that Nebraska could have controlled and didn't.
You're going back to 22-16.
I'm going back to 22-16. I'm going back to various times throughout the match where they just didn't feel like they were all the way dialed in. And they just didn't feel like they were sharp enough. Even when they were winning, it didn't quite feel like they were sharp enough. That's a match they definitely could have put away. And they weren't quite sharp enough, whether it was in the 22-16, which it's really easy to see on the scoreboard, or even in the first two sets where they were able to pull it out, or the last two sets where they weren't, and they just allowed it to get away from them. You know, you're getting into these 4 and 5 point deficits early, and then you're always just chasing, right? And that makes it really challenging.
I can't remember who was on the Pivot podcast. I think it was the Pivot podcast. And he was talking about his tenure under Mike Tomlin. It was a player. Who was it? Was it Woodley? It was somebody. And he was talking about competitive stamina. So, of course, I
perk up a little bit.
Yeah. 100%, right? Because that's the competitiveness in me. It's weird. I can relate it to even hanging in there with bad food, right? It's just who I am.
Yep.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. Anyway. And he said something that was interesting, and I got to go back and get it in its entirety, because he talked about competitive stamina absolutely being a skill, mental toughness, where it's something you could work on, like shooting free throws. And I was like, is it? Maybe. Because then I listened to like Harp last night, and she's clearly better a year later. And it's not just the physical nature of it. It's the competitive stamina. It's the ability to hang in there emotionally and take one more swing at it, right? The free ball, it's in the fifth set. It's 13-11, maybe, and she takes a huge swing, makes it 13-12, and I'm like, she wouldn't have done that a year ago.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, fortitude it takes to take that swing in that moment
is huge.
Is enormous.
Is huge.
Right? Like that's,
and so I'm just thinking, like, is that really a skill? Because I go back to kind of what you just said about the maturity thing. Maybe you just have to go through it seasonally.
Maybe.
Right? You ask me, why can you deal with ding-dongs? Well, it's twofold. Number one, I failed at such a such a public embarrassing level, but I've done it a couple of times through multiple phases of my life. Right, getting benched on national television was one. A divorce in your home city is two. Right, and there are some ones in between. Right,
sure.
So you're working on like pushing through competitively. And I would like to say, each time I'm better coming out, but there is that very fine line you're talking about as the athlete in me, where it's like, do I really want to be responsible for it so I can make it better? Or at some point, would I like to say, oh, that was their fault?
So that's not how I look at it when you switch it to the other way. The way I look at it when I switch it to the other way is I did everything I could.
Yeah, well, see, I can't say that either.
Right, but that's where I try.
And I don't think Nebraska can't say that last night.
Right, they can't. But that's where I try and get to, right?
I got you.
My ideal now.
I mean, that's always the ideal in competitiveness, right?
I don't know that it is.
Whether, well, I think so. I think this is just my opinion. I think we talk about this all the time as a staff, and I hear it with other organizations where, when you're not as outcome based, but the outcomes matter, you always talk about leaving it all out there.
Sure.
Leaving it all out there. Like
controlling what you can control.
We boiled this down to like 5 good minutes of real actual time. Can you play 5 hard good minutes? And so I think you always want to drill it down to, I gave it the best. Sure. I did the best that I could. It could be your job. It could be a relationship. I think you always want to arrive at the point where you left it all out.
So I think there's 2 things there. I think there's different kind of silos for that, right? In terms of effort and focus and intensity, yes, that's where you want to get, right? But then you can still take ownership of the technical and say, hey, there's still things I can clean up. I did leave it all out there. I tried as hard as I could. There's some technical things I can still clean up, right? That's kind of my 99% rule, right? Like, you can be 99% in the right. you still want to try and work on the 1% if you're competitive, right? Or if you care about being a better person. Whereas I can say, hey, I gave my 100% effort, and so I did everything I could in that sense, but I can still go back and look and say, hey, maybe I could be a little bit better prepared this time. Or there was a technical aspect that I wasn't ready for that I can go get now.
I
So
think internally it's different for everybody.
That's how
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I think you answered the first question. You don't think Nebraska thinks last night that they lost to a better team?
I don't think so, no.
Is that easier or harder to deal with this time around?
I think harder. For me, it would be harder. I've kind of gotten to the point, and I don't know, maybe it's I'm getting old and less competitive, or maybe it's maturity. I don't know. I really don't. But I've gotten to the point where
those two things can be mutually exclusive.
They can, yeah, for sure. And I don't know if it's one, the other.
Because I'm a little more mature, but I'm not any less competitive.
Yeah, and I don't know if I am or not. Like I'm just in real time, kind of processing through it. But I've gotten to the point where if I feel like, whether it's me or a team I root for or whoever, if I feel like they played well and did their best, I can live with losing to a better team.
Yeah, that's why when you asked me the question yesterday, the day before yesterday, and maybe it was off air.
Might have been, yeah.
About the 9 wins, but never having. Would I rather be? What was the question? It was somebody about it.
It was Auburn.
It was Auburn.
It would basically be Bo or Auburn. Because I used to ask people this during the Gene Chizik, Gus Malzahn era, where Bo's winning 9 games every single year, but you're never winning a national championship in that scenario. Yeah. And I think people knew that. Or you're Auburn, where you're 3 wins, 11 wins, 4 wins, national title, 5 wins, title game appearance. Like, you're just all over the place, right?
And I thought about it for a second, and I said I'd rather be Auburn.
You want a chance to win a title. You want it, and that's the competitiveness, right? And that's totally fine. But I also think part of the problem we had with Bo in Nebraska was, not with Bo, with Scott Frost in Nebraska, was we felt like we were losing to teams that weren't as good as us.
So, okay, with that, that builds on to what we can talk about in the next break, though, because I think getting to the Final Four for this team was just the expectation.
Yeah, bare minimum. It was bare minimum.
I think we're in agreement there.
That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. I'll set up the show. Coming up next, we've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Speaking of football here real quick, Not a Joke says he would – I like that he used this term. He says he would Trev Alberts basically every other program in the athletic department just for a college football playoff appearance. So
really?
He apparently knows where his priorities are. I just thought it was funny that he used the Trev Alberts as a verb.
Nothing would please me more.
Wow.
Hot Danger says, my success is mine. My failure is, I don't know, God's or somebody else's.
Wow.
Everybody.
This is honest.
Hot Danger also says, I'd rather lose closer to 7 p.m. Some of us got to get up early, y'all. So the chat at it again, as you might expect here on a Friday morning.
I always think about that. Like, do you want to be responsible for the outcome, or is it easier just to have somebody be better than you?
Yeah, I want to feel like I did everything I could. That's how I want to feel at the end of something. And I think it's easier to live with yourself if that's the case. I don't know if it's easier to live with the loss, because then you kind of have to deal with this idea, especially in sports where somebody's better than me. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's less regret when you know you did everything you could.
Yeah, sometimes I think a good healthy denial is nice too.
Well, I mean, there's such a thing as irrational confidence being really important in sports.
Yeah, like me thinking if we just get a mirror here to the ground,
yeah.
Or if we don't commit
100%.
a penalty, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, oh yeah, I believe me.
And I get that too, because let's be totally honest here. In order to come up here every day and talk for 3 hours and think people should listen to you, you have to have some level of irrational confidence.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? Like that's
Maybe.
there's something to that,
Just
right?
delusional.
So, I get that for sure. I do.
You weren't probably like all in yet, because you were certainly young, but do you remember when rally scoring came about? And
I remember it being a thing. Like, I remember it not being rally scoring.
So when I was in school, it was kind of first introduced in its infancy. And it was like,
because what was it, late 90s, early 2000s
I should
when it
probably
made the switch?
Google.
Yeah.
But I think it was around 95.
Okay.
But it wasn't across the board at all levels. In like 01, when I got back, I was kind of like after. I was like, okay, I'm just going to settle in and try to play locally. So I'm kind of aware of sports again then. But I think in 01, it was official across D1, D2, D3.
01 is correct. That's when it appears to be officially official.
Okay, so why do I have 95 on my brain?
That might have been when they started testing it. I'm not seeing a 95.
Because I do remember some 95 stuff.
Yeah, that's probably when they started like feeling it out.
Yeah, because Lance said last night, he goes, volleyball is the most nerve-wracking sport by far, my Lord. I'm like, it is. Like I was talking about that huge swing that Murray took in the fifth set when it was like 13-11.
Yeah.
From middle back. Right? It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But I get if you're going to go, I mean, rip that thing.
Yeah, if you're going to go, go.
And she did. So but the rally scoring thing, it changed the sport.
Well, there's
dramatically.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think you can,
and it just continues to get more fast-paced and more explosive. It's just,
I think you can directly point to the change in rally scoring and draw a straight line to the popularity of it today. Like, rally scoring has made it a much more exciting sport.
Yeah.
Right. And part of it's the rally scoring, and then part of it, I don't know why. I mean, I watch a lot of like tennis stuff on TikTok, but there was a guy talking about how the entirety of the appeal of tennis is the way the scoring is set up, right? And it's kind of the same way in volleyball with the sets, whereas like we've seen Nebraska blow people out, right? Like, what was it? Florida A&M was 25-3, right? Which is crazy. But Florida A&M then could have come back theoretically and won sets 2-3-4 and won the match, right? Yeah. In any other sport, they're still down 22.
Yeah.
Right? Like in basketball, they're still down 22. Yeah. Whereas in tennis and volleyball, because you stop and you start over, there's always that drama of,
gosh, do I like that?
Like, hey, I can come back and get it. Where in basketball, you go, hey, you're down 12 at half. You're still down 12 starting the second half. Not, hey, they are up 1-0 now because they won one half of basketball, and now you get a chance to go win the second half of basketball.
Maybe that's why I'm not always all in. And this is a little different, but kind of not with like Elam endings.
Sure. Yeah. It's a little bit different. But that's the idea, right? Is the structure of the scoring creates the drama,
right?
Not always the game itself, right?
Right.
And so there's, because, you could lose a tennis set 6-0, but then you can come back and win the match. Whereas like, okay, you lost 6 games.
Or you, like, we've been watching tennis together.
Yeah.
And you'll say, this one's over. Just concede, save the energy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at what point in any sport would that be a feasible thing?
In tennis, because of the structure, right? Because of the structure.
Exactly.
Where you're like, hey, I'm up 2-1.
You're like, he burned a ton of energy to get this thing just to lose 6-4.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
okay, and it's like, save it.
I could, all right.
Just save it, man.
I'm listening.
Like,
seems kind of losery, but it's more smart.
It's a strategic, right?
Yeah, clearly.
Because you're like, hey, my best competitive chance is to not waste energy on this thing that is over, right?
Clearly.
And so, it's
just hard to turn your brain off momentarily to.
Yeah, in the moment, right? Real time, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel that way.
You say just get to the half in football and you're down 14.
Right.
You say, hey, just get to the half in basketball. Oh, my God, they just went on a 9-0 run.
Right. But it's kind of the same thing. Like, hey, let's not let this thing get any more out of hand. Like, you're still like it, rather than being like, hey, we got to get this thing to 3 by halftime or whatever.
Like the Chargers last night.
Yeah, 100%.
But just like the Chargers.
Who I still think are pretty good.
It's funny. My little rule technician who like knows every rule known to man.
The kick?
Yeah.
I knew that was a thing. Like, I actually did know that was a thing.
And he's like, I can't, like, he's because it's naturally in his Rolodex. He's
Yeah.
like, man, how did Harbaugh not know that? And he's like, yeah, I was going to do that in 2013. We had a hurt,
Yeah.
and he remembers the scenario.
Yeah.
Now, 2013 was a significant year for that school in their playoff run, but
Yeah.
I'm like, that is so Coach Frank.
That's 100%. Like, that's a Belichick thing. Belichick would have done that.
It's a Frank thing.
Right, yeah. But, like, in professional football, that's the thing that you think Belichick's going to know, and then nobody else is going to know.
Yeah.
Right? Where he's doing the drop kick.
What do they say at TikTok? No one will know.
They're going to know.
They're going to know. No one will know. They're
going to know.
Yeah.
Coming up on the show today, we've got all of our Friday regulars. Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska coming up here at 8 o'clock. We'll get his update on transfer portal, all of that good stuff there from TV. Coming up at 9, our guy Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports and NEB Preps. And then we'll wrap up the show at 9:45, as we always do, with the one and only Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. So good show for you coming up here today. Quick programming note before we get into the break here. We will be back on Monday, and then we will be on a little break for the holiday. So just as a heads up there, our guy Shane has put together the best clips throughout the entire year to carry you through the days that we are not on live shows. But starting on Christmas Eve, the 24th, and then through New Year's Day, the 1st, we will be off, and hope you enjoy all that time with your families or whoever you choose to spend holidays with. Not everybody likes hanging out with their family, so
not everybody loves the holidays.
That's true. I totally understand that as well. So hopefully we keep you entertained with our best moments from throughout the year. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. If you want more volleyball in your life, now that unfortunately the college volleyball season is over here locally, make sure you get to supernovas.com, where you can see some former Huskers and probably some former Blue Jays as well playing for your Omaha Supernovas, the defending pro volleyball champions. They open their season January 10th against the Atlanta Vibe at CHI Health Center. You can get your tickets today at supernovas.com. Speaking of volleyball, DB.
Yes, sir.
I did want to kind of go back and get something that's sort of been out in the local sports media ether all week.
Oh, I got you.
Because I'll be totally honest with you, right? So we had this interview with Sam on Monday. He has the take about John Cook. You and I discussed it extensively in real time and then after the interview. And then a little bit online that day in our comment section. And then I kind of just left it. Like
although Tuesday I did say,
we talked about it a little bit more.
I was surprised to wake up to so many
like DMs and messages
in my mentions, yeah.
And so I was like, I knew that.
And that was Tuesday.
Yeah, I knew it had some legs, but I kind of didn't think about it a ton after that. A couple people made an offhanded comment here or there, and then yesterday it got to the point, and I didn't realize this until after I saw the apology from Sam that he put on his Twitter. You can go read it on his Twitter account if you missed it. But I didn't realize that so many people had been talking about this that weren't even tagging us in things. So I didn't see a lot of it end of Tuesday, Wednesday, and early yesterday. So this thing had gotten legs to a point that I really did not realize, like legitimately, until yesterday when someone sent me the Sam tweet about the apology, which, first of all, like, I don't really know Sam personally that well. The only time
I do.
Yeah, you guys go way back. But, like, for context, the only time I really interact with Sam is on the show and then in passing at sporting events. We're friendly, but I wouldn't say I know him well. Like, I couldn't tell you anything about his family, or I know he's a Bears fan. That's about it. And I think his wife is a Browns fan, unfortunately.
Correct.
So this has nothing to do with really a friendship for me, but he's a guy that I appreciate coming on the show. And real quick, like, what we ask people to do as our guests is pretty hard because we talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
We ask them questions. We don't prep them for these interviews. We ask them like off the wall stuff and like all over the place. And if you've never done that, or if you do it a lot, it's still really hard because you've got a couple of goofballs up here that are going to ask you whatever pops in our head. And
sometimes we ask you about your barber.
Yeah, that's challenging, right? Especially when you've got a wheelhouse. And so I want to put that out there. But I couldn't believe it had gotten to the point where he felt like he had to issue an apology.
Yeah.
And so I end up saying, I end up quote tweeting him and whatever, and just saying like, hey, like it was a bad take, right? Sam knows it was a bad take. We all knew it was a bad take real time. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's a bad sports take. I felt bad that he felt like he had to issue an apology.
I like that approach, man. And of course, this isn't so I don't really know your stance.
Yeah, outside of what I've tweeted,
right? I don't really know your stance. So, but I'm just telling you, like sitting next to you, I respect the heck out of that because that's exactly how I feel. And there's this part, right? There's this duality of doing this job when you interview people that you're friends with.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the professional side, and then there's the entertainment side. And I think sometimes nobody wants the guy that just reads. You don't want a box score guy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not fun to listen to.
Hey, Nebraska signed a 6'6" defensive tackle out of such and such, but okay, cool. We can all read that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not. That's not where I want to take guys, and there is a little bit of knowing their personality, right? Like. This guy would probably be good at this. This young lady probably it fits her. So there is that. But with Sam, one of the things I think that why I like talking to him is there's typically depth, there's range. I could talk food, I could talk movies, whatever, right? And so real time, yeah, did it aggravate me? Sure.
Yeah, you could tell.
It aggravated.
Sure.
But I'm not mad at him though.
Right.
Right.
The take aggravated you.
Yeah, I'm not mad at him, and I didn't call him and say, "Hey, I can't believe you did that," or "I can't believe you said that." Like I've only done that once in the history of doing this for 20 years, and that was Schaefer.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the only time I've ever, and that was last year.
Yeah, it was recently.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had kind of moved on, but I knew where I felt like this thing could get in trouble is when I talked to Coach Pettit.
Yeah.
Because he's very smart and he's very articulate, and the way that he described it kind of came across as this level of just disappointment.
Sure.
Like he didn't come across as angry. I mean, it's just Coach Pettit. I mean, it's a real dude.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then it just didn't go away. So then there were these subtweets, and I didn't catch wind of it again until I think it was Abby something. Somebody had my name, and then I went back and I looked at the thread, and I was
because they thanked you for like going back and getting it for like.
So then that's what a lot of people started to do.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey man, we appreciate you, DB," and that's not even one I want to take.
Yeah, that's not what you were really trying to do.
No, I just was. I mean, kinda. I do want to.
It didn't sit right with you.
Yeah, because it was whatever. I'm not going to rehash that. But I love what you said about, like, it was just a bad sports take. Like, that's okay.
It happens all the time. That's part of the gig.
And people, like, one thing I think I would love for people to realize is, like, kind of the mob mentality is dangerous. It just is. And there was this point, I told this to Adam, I told this to AC, I was like, because, and Ryan too, because they both were kind of the same. They'd heard about it, but not really.
Yeah.
Then had to go back and see what all the fuss was. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I think I've said, I don't know. I felt like the apology, in my opinion, I didn't want him to have to do.
I agree. That's why I ended up.
I'm like, if I'm just being honest, like because I like him. It doesn't change the way I feel about him regardless. I still think he's really good at his job.
Yeah, 100%. And he's really insightful on a lot of things. I mean, listen, I know.
And believe me, people that know me know he used to drive me crazy. He still does sometimes. For years,
Yeah,
I would go back and forth on social media just with different takes. But the one thing I do love is he allows himself to go there without he engages,
which is why this is why we like talking to him, because he allows
that's me too.
He allows us to take him.
It's just an awful take
to stretch places, right? I mean, I can't tell you, and like I said, him and I aren't friends in the sense that you guys are, but like he has basketball takes I disagree with all the time. But basketball is much less personal to the state than volleyball is, especially Nebraska volleyball, right?
The reaction. I'll give you one last night.
Like people took it personally.
I'll give you one last night.
And
it was, and I didn't know it completely. Listen, I'm naive to some things, but this person shall remain nameless. He goes, "Hey DB, this is last night at." This is a shame. I can't even see what time this is on my phone. 8:11. What did Sam M say about Cook? LOL. These people are out here at practice. We're watching the game real time and talking about putting a hit out on him. LOL. This is wild. And I was like, Monday segment is just okay. It was a bad 25 minutes. I got over it. But social media crushed him. So he issued an apology on Twitter. And he goes, "Damn, man, that's terrible. Must have been on a call. I usually listen with the boys on the way to school. I just know these moms are out here taking practice swings at him." And I just was like, I think it's what you said. I think it's the reverence for the sport.
Yeah.
I think it's
something we feel like ownership over as a state.
And they're very, very in volleyball, people are very volleyball people.
And they're very protective of it.
Yeah. And I think people know how I feel about Coach Cook, right? I talk about the evolution and, going from.
I love this version of him.
It's interesting to watch because at this stage, I'm probably more impressed than anything.
Yeah.
And I remember being taken aback, like when he's like going to China to study the men's game because the women's game has gotten so explosive. He wanted to get an edge.
Yeah.
And I was like, this dude is incredible. And this was some years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I've always been captivated by him. But I can separate that.
Yeah.
From just not a good segment.
And honestly, the funny thing is,
and I try not to be like that. I was probably a little more pushbacky than I normally was.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Ooh.
The funny thing is, I don't even think the whole segment was bad. Like, he made good points about how good Coach Booth is. He later called Coach Cook probably the greatest of all time. Like, there was a bad moment over the course of a segment, but the thing that I really landed on was, hey, this was a sports take. He didn't attack his character. He didn't attack him as a person. Like, this was just a bad sports take. And I know some people took it that way as more personal than I did, but I certainly didn't. And I thought it was unfortunate he ended up having to go back.
The diminishing of the skill sets was
fair.
But he did nail Pitt.
He did nail Pitt, and that's the thing I wanted to get to. We will talk to Tim Verghese coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by the one and only Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Tim, how you doing this morning?
Hey, not too bad. How about y'all?
We are doing well. Tim, nice slow time of year for you. Not too much going on?
Tim, we always have to be careful about making small talk because what we figured out this week is when we bring on our recruiting guys and their specialty areas during the portal session, we better get to portal guys.
People get a little antsy.
It's like, is there no human component where like guys can just sit around and have a little mental break and not have to stay dialed 24 hours a day? You know what I mean? So it's
this time of year where like I'll have friends and people reach out and I'm like, oh, the holidays. They're reaching out, for holidays. And then it's like, all right, so how's Nebraska standing with this wide receiver? How's Nebraska standing here?
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? And I feel so bad because I'm ridiculously close to my mom. And I know she's chomping at the bit to ask me questions. And I think she's terrified, and I feel bad that I make her feel like that. So sometimes, like just the other day, I was picking her up from the nail place, and she's like, "So I know you don't really want to talk about football, but I'm like, Mom, it's totally disarming. I'm like, go ahead. What do you want to know?
Well,
And it's funny too, TV, because at the end she'll say, and it was a long time, believe me, it felt like an eternity, and she goes, "Well, I guess that's all my questions. Thank you." So I get it. I like, I, I am right there with you, bud. But I want to go. Let me start in the short scope, the short rearview mirror of just yesterday and the press conference, because Coach Holgerson, he's going to be another one of those guys that's going to tell you exactly what you need to know, and we better do a good job of not parsing through it, because. You know how we like to do that, where guys sometimes are so set straight shooters, we still wonder what they meant? It's like the complete oxymoron. He's like, hey, right, we'll have guys on our board that we better have available. We understand how this goes. We want to be open and honest with guys, but we've got to be able to plug and play. And then he talked about having the freedom to do it. You just get the sense these guys don't leave a whole lot of stones unturned when it comes for this roster construction.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think when you're seeing, you look at the positions, you look at the guys in town, you look at how quick, hey, Keegan Trost, just entered the portal the day before, he's in town the next day. They're getting guys turned around on campus fast. There's a sense of urgency there. And I see people, I've had to deal with comments and questions of hey, why isn't Nebraska constantly swinging at top-end talent the way some of these other programs are? Again, you keep in mind, I think this program is going to build the roster a different way. If they can find plug-and-play type pieces, they're going to find it before the most. The portal is always going to be complementary in terms of roster building. So hey, yesterday they went out and got an Isaiah Hunter. That's not a complementary piece. That's seriously improving your wide receiver group. They swung on Isaiah World. If they were to land him, World would have been a guy that, hey, this is just a piece. There's only a handful of those guys out there of these type of talents that can improve your roster. Most part, it feels okay about the O-line. Do they feel good necessarily that they have guys that are ready to start necessarily next year? They have guys that are capable of it. But if they could add Isaiah World, for O-lineman, if they can add a true starting caliber, starting caliber pieces to the line, they would like to. But at the end, it's good. And you can see the areas they don't feel good about the depth by what they're landing, like the defensive line. They look depth pieces this week. That's because they don't feel good about the depth there right now. So it's like you're saying, they're leaving no stone unturned, and it's not done. We're going to get this shut down on visits here after Sunday for the holidays, but then I think that's going to be a really good time for this staff to sit down, let the dust settle, figure out who on their roster is sticking around, who's leaving, and then after that, they can also turn around and relook at the portal with a different view of, okay, here's what we need to address. Here's what's left out there. Here's what we can potentially take a swing on. And I think come Jan 1st, you're going to see a more calculated approach to the portal.
Yeah, Tim, I was starting to wonder about that, right? Because Nebraska does still have another week of practices and a bowl game to play. How much of that for the coaches do you think is an evaluation period of their current roster to say, hey, these are some places I don't know that these guys are as ready as I wanted to be. Let's go back to the portal. And how much is the roster limits that are improving that are changing this year allowing them to do that? Because there's just going to be more guys left in the portal at that point.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. It's I think it's just a good week of right now, the day to day. John Butler talked about, Dana Holgerson talked about the day to day is we're doing bowl practice, and then mid bowl practice we're stepping out to go do talk to a kid, or we're having a meeting, and then mid meeting we're stepping out to go talk to a portal visitor or a late 2025 potential target. And so it's just a lot happening right now. And I think when you have that opportunity, okay, we'll have a week where we get to solely focus on the then coming out of the bowl game, we'll have a better view. I think this bowl game is going to give, and these final few practices are going to give Nebraska a good idea of what they really have depth-wise with some of the young pieces, and something they have not had in the last 2 years, these extra 15 practices. An opportunity to kind of figure out what's left.
Shane, hey, you want to call him back and see if we can get a better connection? A little shill?
Yep.
Thank you, big man.
Yeah, I think we're missing some good stuff there from.
And everybody loves TV because then we'll have to hear about it,
especially during portal season.
Hey, what did somebody? We did one of the interviews and they're like, oh my gosh, it's like the Little Rascals phone can underwater.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, that's a heck of a clever pull.
Yeah, that's a
because I know like when he described how it sounded, I was like, oh, I bet that is what that would sound like.
That's exactly how it sounds.
Did you ever see that movie?
Little Rascals? Yeah,
the one with Waldo, and it was the most recent one with
I think so. Yeah.
And they like dropped the phone down over.
Wait,
the
how
bridge.
recent are we talking?
I don't know, probably
like early 2000s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think yeah. Okay. I didn't know if there was like another one I missed.
You can only do so many of those.
I mean, have you seen Hollywood these days? They kind of just keep pumping stuff out. And you're like, nobody asked for that, man.
Oh, by the way, though, shout out to Craven. I'll be watching that.
We have Tim back.
There he is.
Get back to our guy, Tim Verghese. Tim, yeah, we kind of lost you there a little bit as we were talking about the ability to reevaluate young players during this bowl period to see what the portal needs actually are.
Yeah, like I think more than anything, it's just the schedule's going to free up a good bit next week, where they're just going to be solely focused on bowl practices, and then when they're not practicing and not evaluating their current roster, they actually have time to like watch some film and put together a board. Right now, everything is so fluid because guys are coming in, leaving, going to other visits. It's like, okay, hey, we got a guy in town. We feel good about him. Oh, wait, no, he's going to visit Michigan and Miami after he visits us, so we don't feel as good anymore. Maybe we should drop him off the board. Maybe we should bring in another offensive lineman. So it's so fluid right now. They don't really have time to build out that board. I think, again, a week of just, again, the holidays are squeezed into there too, but a week and a half or so where you just get to evaluate your own roster, evaluate some film, and really build out, okay, here's a needs we need to address. Here's like a list of targets we absolutely need to get in town as soon as the visits reopen come Jan 1st. I think that'll help a lot in terms of just helping Nebraska attack this with a little more, not even urgency, because they're doing a good job of attacking it with urgency, but I think attacking priorities and attacking with more calculation, I guess.
So when you're taking a look at kind of what Nebraska's trying to do through the portal, we've obviously seen a couple of defensive linemen, a snapper. We know what they're after, wide receiver. Is there a surprise addition? A couple of corners, maybe. We've seen one safety. Like, is there a surprise addition that you think they're quietly working on that could surface?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple. I think, a couple. We're monitoring a couple of names.
A linebacker, maybe.
Yeah, that's the name I'm looking at. I'm monitoring a couple names on the defensive line. Outside linebacker as well. There's been some buzz around, potentially Kansas edge, Sean Warner. He's a young guy with some talent off the edge. Another name we're monitoring, but we'll have to see just, how much smoke there really is and how many visits he intends to take, is Pat Payton out of Florida State, former Nebraska commit, hails from Miami, has that relationship with Philip Simpson and has those Miami ties as well. That's a guy who's familiar with the program, and right now LSU seems like the favorite, but if Nebraska can get him to make a couple of visits and even, potentially make a visit to Nebraska, anything could happen there. And then I think secondary as well. I think we've seen a couple of names pop into town already this week. But they're working on a couple others too. And so, I'm curious to see kind of what names surfaced on the public radar here this weekend. And, through this break, kind of who emerges as like who's left on the board, who still is keeping an open recruitment, because some guys are going to choose to shut it down here over this next week or so. But who chooses to keep things open and where Nebraska chooses to get involved, I'm very curious to see. And I think another name or names to keep an eye on, if Dane Key leaves Nebraska uncommitted and Georgia seems like the favorite there, but if he ends up going somewhere else that's not Nebraska, does Nebraska go and find another receiver in the portal, or do they feel good about? Because me personally, I said it yesterday, after landing Hunter, you kind of feel okay about the depth.
I completely agree.
Yeah, you have good weapons in there that are balanced and that are explosive and that can do a couple different things. I don't know if you necessarily need another guy out of the portal, but if you can find one, I'm never going to say no.
You know what's interesting with this staff, you guys? I'm curious to get your thoughts. From a relational and developmental, they've got the I think they have. This is just my opinion, so you guys, this is a open discussion. I think they have the X's and O's covered. I think you have really bright minds on the offensive side of the ball. I think you have really bright minds on the defensive side of the ball. You've added a couple of relational pieces that I think can help you with communication and understanding 18 to apparently soon to be 26-year-olds in some programs. There's this part of me that thinks the staff is like, now they want to get into this Nebraska Midwest mentality thing where it's like salt of the earth, good workers, be fiscally savvy. I just can't see this staff going out of their way to spend money they don't have to in terms of rolling the dice. That's what I kind of heard when I heard Coach Holgerson say, well, we got to have some guys on our board, but like we'll see if we need to have them available. It just certainly helps that we can pull the trigger if we do. Is that?
Yeah.
Listen, like I said, feel free. The floor is open.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do. I mean, there's an element here of like you're going to have to spend almost regardless, depending on who you're taking. But there is a sense of like, okay, I mean, not going to spend necessarily, and also like you don't necessarily want to ruffle feathers either. Like, and I think we can point to an example from this week. Eric Rivers from FIU, visited Nebraska, visited Miami, and then went to Georgia Tech and committed to Georgia Tech. And I think there's a couple of reasons, talking to people on his end on why that happened. Nebraska sees him as a guy that they have a couple of players that can kind of somewhat fill his role. You have Ja'Cory Barney on the roster. You have Jalen Lloyd on the roster. You have Jaden Dodd. You have guys on the roster that kind of fill that role already. And he's a guy on his end. He's got 1 year left. He's looking for a place that he, can for sure produce and a place that can for sure get him to the NFL. And, Georgia Tech offered the opportunity to play with a veteran quarterback, to play in an offense that returns most of their pieces and, and fill a role essentially. And Eric Singleton, who is one of the more popular players in the portal from Georgia Tech, who had over 750 receiving yards. Nebraska doesn't have a guy like that where they could point to and for a guy with 1 year of eligibility be like, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to fill this role, and you're going to produce just like him. Like, they didn't have that guy on the roster, but Georgia Tech does. So for multiple reasons, it worked out.
That's an incredible example.
Right, and that's the thing. It worked out where Rivers landed in Georgia Tech. And Nebraska now, they land a guy that I think is a better receiver and has future wide receiver one capabilities, unlike, potentially a 1 year rental you may be overpaying a little for, and you run the risk of, ruffling the feathers of a Ja'Cory Barney or a Jalen Lloyd.
Tim, I'm glad you brought up the remaining eligibility here, because one of the things that I've noticed out of the portal is everybody except for the specialist that Nebraska has gotten out of the portal has multiple years remaining. That's something that Coach Rule kind of addressed on the front end of this.
Yep.
And the other part was existing production. The only basically one of those two things needed to exist, right? Either multiple years remaining so they feel like they can develop them, or existing production. It seems like they've gone pretty heavy into the multiple years remaining. Is that a trend you expect to continue? Is that more of a coincidence in your mind just based on the guys that were available?
That's a good question.
Something of a coincidence, but also I think it's something you're going to see more of too. I think because again, and it's my personal belief, once we get into revenue sharing, which is starting this summer, you're going to be able to lock in these guys for multi-year type contracts. And I think for Nebraska, a program that likes to develop their own talent, I think they would like to be able to hang on to guys for multiple years and develop them within the system and develop that, togetherness, that roster compatibility. Ideally, you want Dylan Raiola and Isaiah Hunter to be teammates for the next 2-3 years. Ideally, you want them to play together and build that chemistry over the course of at least 2 seasons. You want Williams and Maneri and Keona Davis, to build that chemistry with Riley Van Poppel across multiple years. You want, all that to develop. Even the other guy, Jalen George, you want to bring him in as a guy that, okay, year one, Gabe Moore as well. The year one, they're maybe going to play rotational snaps, maybe 15 to 20 snaps, if that, per game. But then as their roles increase and as they get more comfortable in the system, maybe they start to fill in, bigger roles. Maybe they start to, step into bigger. Gabe Moore in particular is a guy that, if he does develop into what he can be, he's a guy that could be potentially a starter for you, or like one of the first guys off the bench on the D line. He's not there right now, but a year or two from now he could be.
Tim, when you're taking a look at this bowl game preparation, and obviously Robichaux, and they got a stable of backs, and they've been able to move the football fairly methodically in terms of their style of play. We heard Coach Butler talk about play action pass and kind of that NFL offense with O'Brien. Where do you see the roster as it's kind of currently constructed? Is that playing to strengths or weaknesses, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know. Specifically this matchup, I'm actually very fascinated. Are you talking about on Nebraska's ends or Boston College?
So I'm talking about Nebraska defensively against the way Boston College wants to move the ball.
Right. And so that's the thing. Like, I think if you were to, what makes things interesting here is, I think, because you would think a bowl game, extra practice is, an opportunity for these young guys. You would think you're going to see more young guys in the secondary, but at the same time, this is the last game for Isaac Gifford and Deshaun Singleton and some of those guys, and so I wonder a little bit how much of the young guys we're going to get, because, I think hypothetically Nebraska would like to have Ramir Stewart and Braylon Prude and, even Caleb out there, just a little more athleticism potentially in the back end to help counter some of these, again, these play action attacks where you are going to have to put some of your safeties on islands potentially. You are going to have to put them in positions where, they're going to have to cover downfield. They're going to have to cover athletes downfield. And we've seen, this veteran secondary right now has had some issues doing that consistently.
Tim, so you mentioned the wide receiver group and how you kind of felt – I know you said you felt better about it. I think you're in the minority there, at least from a fan base perspective. I actually don't mind it. I would like to see one more guy, whether that's Dane Key or somebody else. But I do think most fans would like another wide receiver out of the portal. But when you look at some of the other groups, right, like they've gotten a few defensive linemen come out of the portal. That's obviously a place that was a big area of need. Haven't gotten any offensive linemen yet. Haven't really gotten any help in the defensive backfield yet. Is there any other place that you feel like they're in better shape than maybe the general consensus is?
Honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, outside right now, not really, because I think the secondary does need to get addressed. I think, when you look at the linebacker room right now, and specifically the edge room, I think they would like to add another veteran or two. You feel solid about some of the pieces, with hypothetically another step. Like, hey, year two of Vincent Shavers and Willis McGahee could look really, really good. But then you look back on this past year and you're like, okay, well, in year two, Cam Leonard and Prince Will didn't really make that year two jump necessarily. They kind of stayed where they were at from year one. Like, are we going to get the same version, or are they going to take a step next year? So I think they need to address the defense across the board. I think the D line is pretty much addressed. I think you maybe see one or two more additions, but again, depth pieces there. But at linebacker and deep defensive back, I think you want to address that. Okay, I'll say this. I don't know if they need to address running back in the transfer portal. I know people have mentioned it with Dante Dowdell now gone and Gabe Urban gone, and where that room is right now. But one, I don't think enough people recognize what Connor Booth is. Two, I think Jamarian Parker is going to have an opportunity to compete for snaps as well.
If he's healthy, that's a good get. And plus,
Yeah.
I love Mekhi Nelson too.
Yes, exactly. And you got Mekhi as well, who's a talented player who I think the staff really likes. And then, Dana mentioned it yesterday, but like Quentin Ives is still in that room, and he's a big body back that, can do some things as well. So
I had a guy. Sorry to interrupt, TV, but while you're on Ives, I had a guy text me. What's today? Friday, Tuesday. He goes, "Why do you think people are sleeping on Ives?" And I liked Ives. And my response to him was, I wasn't sure whether he was going to stay or not. Right? He's kind of a wild card, but apparently, as he's staying put. Like, if we pass this window, I'll also add that into the discussion. It's not because I have any inkling. It's just he's the one that nobody – when you talk about a freshman like Nelson before you talk about a guy like Ives, sometimes in running backs' minds, that's, oh, man, there's going to be no room for me. But if he sticks around and competes, he's got a lot of upside too. I mean, I'm with you. I like that. I like the running back room better than most.
Yeah, I think it's a solid room, and yeah, I mean, again, if we're talking about rooms that I think are just set where they're at, I think Nebraska feels good about the obviously the quarterback room, but I mean, obviously the Marcus Davila is still out there, a guy they brought in this week, or Marcos Davila, a guy they brought in this week. I think Nebraska feels good about potentially getting him. And I think that probably, if they were able to land him, I think that probably rounds out, the QB search. That's your QB2 essentially right there.
That's Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy your weekend and your holiday.
Yes, sir. Y'all too.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, from Inside Nebraska. Make sure, if you don't have any plans over the holidays, or even if you do, make some time to get out to Lawrence and Gardens and their Bright Nights. From the 20-foot poinsettia tree to the model train running around the entire place. They've got stuff indoors, outdoors. You can go out there regardless of the weather, make some s'mores, maybe even see Santa. LawrenceandGardens.org is where you find hours, location, and tickets. That's LawrenceandGardens.org. We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and it's time for Hitting the Road with MH Hospitality. Make sure you check out mhhospitality.net. Whether you're traveling this holiday season or people are coming to you, check out the properties at mhhospitality.net and see what they've got to offer. Stay once, create memories forever. DB. Want to talk a little college football playoff?
Oh.
There's some stuff going on this weekend.
Yeah, it was a big one. Did you see that picture I just retweeted?
Which one?
From Notre Dame
Is it
football.
the snow game?
Yeah. Hey, Shane, does this look familiar?
Like Jingle Bells? Jingle Bell. Jingle
What, like
bell.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
No, those are gold. I don't know if you can see from that far, Shane.
You're a big claymation
But
guy?
he does wear gold ones.
Clay animation? Do you like those old?
I have a nostalgia for them from when I was kids.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. Yeah, Rudolph and Frosty.
I like the one with the heat and cold miser.
Yeah.
That was my brother's favorite. So
Yeah.
that's the one I like. I'm Mr. Heat Miser.
Yeah.
And they're brothers.
Those and the Charlie Brown holiday specials were like my family.
Zoe wanted to watch that last Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly what I want to watch at 7:20 on a Saturday, but I was like, I never liked Charlie Brown.
Really?
Never.
Not a big Snoopy guy?
I'm not a big any of them guy. I got a lot of questions. I have more questions than answers.
What are your questions about
It's
Charlie Brown?
a lot of generic stereotyping going on in that.
What do you mean?
Okay.
What?
The little brown dude.
Yep.
Could only do one dance. You had the Pigpen was like in this constant state of flux.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna get into Peppermint Patty. Okay. Not in 2024. Maybe in 2025. And her friend. Okay, that was the whole Sir thing. Like, this isn't revisionist history either. I'm just telling you. And Charlie Brown's, he was a gump. Like, I wasn't riding with that guy. Like, I'm just like, does anything ever good happen in this show?
I was just always.
And I'm a kid, right?
Yeah.
So I could never get over the fact that they always had the same clothes on.
Okay.
Like, even the next day, he would, like, get up and get dressed, or the other people would get up and, and they would like do this thing where you just hop out of bed. They never brushed it. They didn't do anything, right? They're just a cartoon, right? I'm like, no, this is not. And it was kind of depressing. Like one snowball could knock this dude off of his feet. I'm like, I didn't even throw it that hard. I don't know. I just have never liked Charlie Brown.
Out on Charlie Brown.
Out
on Charlie
Could
Brown.
not even hold my interest.
For old DB, but we are in on claymation.
Yeah, I'm in on claymation.
I do like the claymation. The other thing that we watch a lot at Christmas is we were very into the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Not a Muppets guy.
Not a Muppets guy?
No.
We're big Muppets family.
Although I did like Dark Crystal.
I don't know.
It's okay.
Okay.
I don't want to take you down that rabbit hole. Let's not act like you don't have questions right there.
Yeah,
It's a Jim Henson movie.
I was Googling Peppermint Patty trying to get some context for what we're talking about.
Does your daughter watch cartoons every Saturday morning?
No.
So that's not a thing anymore?
No,
And it probably hasn't been
she's
for a
gone
while.
through phases. Now she's into wrestling. WWE.
So she watches.
It's all she cares about. And I feel let me tell you something.
Yeah.
If you want the heebie-jeebies,
yeah,
with a little kid, watch wrestling.
What do you mean?
It does something to my soul. I'm like, why is she into this? These people are scantily clad.
And just beating up on each other?
She checks out the books at the library.
The WWE books?
Yes, it's incredible. Oh, I know where you're at.
Amazing Daniel says the clothes thing is pretty typical of cartoons.
Yeah,
where they don't change.
Daniel, I know, which means you have to be going to something else to hold my attention, and struggling the first 24 minutes of the cartoon, and to have some silver lining the last 2 minutes, and then have the kids dance around. Dun, 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 dun. No, I wasn't doing that.
Nah, not about that life.
I'm out. Mr. Pragmatic over there. Go get on the train, Daniel.
To head up to New York. It might take him.
Yeah. How about my little man Sherm? Me and my man, we just be down here dancing like this.
I was more of a Snoopy Woodstock guy, No. I like the little bird.
And we talk.
I didn't when I was a kid. I will admit I didn't like that none of the adults spoke English. It bothered me.
Yeah.
That all you hear-
Yeah. Wah, 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 wah. Again, Superman wears the same, but at least he had different storylines.
Underpants are on the outside of the pants, which is a whole other thing.
Full disclosure, even though this is not on the heels of Shane, like in the Superman trailer, do you know? So Ken, do you know why I don't love Superman? I didn't start liking Superman until they made him the at least bit vulnerable.
Yeah, because otherwise it's kind of silly.
I was over Superman.
Yeah, the vulnerability is
there's a reason. Batman's my favorite.
There's a reason,
and I kind of gravitate towards Aquaman.
He's always been vulnerable. I mean, it's the kryptonite.
Zip it.
Without vulnerability, characters aren't.
I don't think it matters if you zip it or not. He's still vulnerable.
They weren't doing that like on Challenge of the Super. Believe me, I still watch those series.
Yeah,
still watch all the Super Friends, but not the dumb ones with the two little kids, not the Wonder Twins, the red-haired dude and his sister Marv and the Ding Dong Dog. Yeah, that was a bad stretch.
And Peppermint Patty.
Yeah. Gotta love Peppermint Patty.
You're not gonna get me. Listen. I'm trying to make as much money as I can. You're not gonna get me to lose my job today.
So there's some college football playoff games this weekend.
Yeah, snowball. Starts tonight.
Yeah, this thing really snowballed on us in the segment too.
I blame Daniel. It's easy.
Indiana is 7-point dog on the road to Notre Dame. What I like about this though, this whole weekend.
How good looking is this guy right here? Guys, see that guy? That's my man. That's Teddy Rizak. Looking good.
The
dude could do some modeling.
I do like the fact that you've got true home sites.
That's going to be fun.
This is going to be really fun.
Yeah.
You got teams going on the road. All 4 road teams are dogs this week. I think that has more to do with who they are, not where they are.
And I've done a total 180 on Indiana. I'm hoping they get buried.
Yeah.
I couldn't be any further from where I started out on Kurt Signet.
On the season?
Yeah. Let's go back to July. I couldn't be any further away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lost me Nebraska week. I was out.
Kind of like me coming around.
I was out.
There's been a couple of athletes I'm like that with.
Who?
Well, it's a little obscure, but bear with me. One of them is a boxer, Miguel Cotto.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Couldn't stand Miguel Cotto for 85% of his career.
Isn't he the guy that cheated with the hand wraps, though?
No, that was Margarito.
Against Cotto.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good pull.
Thank you.
Now this one I should have just stayed where I was because I'm back the other way now. But Aaron Rodgers should have just stayed right where I was.
Yeah. Nope, that guy sucks.
I didn't like Aaron. Then no one liked Aaron.
So you came back around.
So I came back around to see if I could understand Aaron. No, I don't.
I'm out.
No, I don't like Aaron. I don't. So it's interesting.
So out of these road dogs, who do you like the best chance to pull an upset?
Oh, not Clemson.
No, it seems like everybody's out on Clemson.
Not Indiana.
It's Tennessee, right?
I mean,
I know you haven't liked Tennessee all year. I know you haven't liked Tennessee all year.
But it's 7-0 for a reason.
And the hook.
Right? Ohio State's supposed to be this vulnerable team, and do they get over the hang? It's still 7.5 against a team that has been in the playoffs safely since November the 10th.
Yeah, like midseason almost. They're like, yeah, they're in. It's like, wait,
we
what?
just penciled in Tennessee, so it's like, I don't know. I guess, but it's totally by default.
If there's any team, so it's either Tennessee or SMU. One of those two teams.
It's Tennessee,
right?
It's Tennessee.
But the team that you look at and say, like, what home team do you look at and say, I could see them laying an egg?
Ohio State.
Right. So that's where it's at, right? It's less about Tennessee and more about Ohio State.
Yeah, because we did talk about that. So that's the one thing I can't really cap is their psyche.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm coming out smoking. And
also,
I keep,
like, how
and
much
I
of this
keep
Ryan Day stuff, like, is
and I
in
keep
their locker?
waiting for them to, like, maximize. And I haven't really seen it, unless you want to count Iowa, and even that wasn't like.
Yeah. I don't want to count Iowa.
You look at the score, and you're like, yeah, in the second half.
Sure.
I don't know.
They play an entire good football game all year?
Doesn't seem like it. Well, they did hammer Indiana.
They did. They did
hammer Indiana.
We will see how it all shakes out, and we'll talk about it on Monday. That's Hitting the Road with MH Hospitality. Go check out mhhospitality.net. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Don't wait until New Year's to get a resolution going to lose some weight. You can start now with the help of Midland's Family Urgent Care. Right now, they're offering some amazing holiday pricing on tirzepatide. That is the generic for Zepbound. It's $5.99 for 3 months, or semaglutide. That's the compound for Ozempic. Is $3.49 for the first 3 months. These are FDA-approved medications and are safe and effective. 402-810-9494. Call Midland's Family Urgent Care today. DB, we were talking about your kids in the break here.
Well, actually, we were talking about Sauter's kids.
Yeah, we started with Sauter's kids, then it came to your kids. Your kids are getting out of school early today.
12:30, yes.
It's the last day before Christmas break.
And I'm like these kids are like rocking pajamas.
It's a little loosey-goosey.
To school.
Yeah.
And Jerome was like, oh, my kids have pajama day today. And I was like, I don't think we could have gotten away with that.
So we had pajama days.
Yeah.
When I was in school, but that was when you were wearing like the flannel, like lounge pants.
So
and a
people
shirt.
just wear those you see those in the grocery store.
Yeah, that wasn't as common back when I was in.
We had to ask
in the day
a young man to leave the weight room.
Really?
The other day.
Because he was wearing pajama pants?
Attempting to lift in pajama pants.
So where did that start?
I don't know.
Is it like because you brought up, you go, I couldn't have done it because when I was a kid, I was wearing a onesie.
Like we didn't have. There were some cool pajamas,
yeah,
right, with the matching top and bottom.
Yeah,
they're kind of cartoon related or something.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of onesies
back in the day.
So when you said that, I'm imagining because I was thinking about having pajama day when I was in high school, and I'm like, is 14-year-old DB just running around in a onesie?
Nah. Damn. No, idiot. I wasn't. I was wearing a T-shirt and shorts then, I think.
But I mean, then you got like Travis Hunter on his like live wearing unicorn
Now,
onesies
full
and stuff.
disclosure, I do secretly want to wear like a onesie to like work. I would wear a onesie as an adult, but now it's like cool again. Okay.
Why are you trying to wear a onesie as an adult? Why?
I feel like there's this. This is like the Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince thing.
No, I'm just
You
asking.
just won't understand.
I'm not your dad. I'm not your parents.
I don't know.
Parents just don't understand?
I'm like,
It's freaking bad.
it's like a thing now. Have you ever looked at like the TikTok shop?
Yeah, sometimes.
There's a ton of like onesie and adult pajamas.
Yeah, I must be on a different part of TikTok shop than you. I don't get a lot of onesies on my...
Wow.
Do you ever get those
No.
those like
No.
1 million?
I don't. No. No.
There's not a lot of onesies on my algorithm, DB.
I mean, I'm not talking about I'm not like Pikachu or some of the stuff he was wearing.
Like the
or a giant
unicorn one?
unicorn. But they're like, I would wear like a normal onesie.
What is just like no pattern or anything? Just like
It would have to like I would wear like a super like I need to find like an Aquaman or a Batman.
you trying to wear like a
onesie.
Batman onesie?
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can find you an adult Batman onesie. I'm gonna get it for you for Christmas. But then you have to wear it on the show.
I would definitely wear a onesie. I would. I don't know why I wouldn't.
Isn't a onesie basically just like a jumpsuit,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You like
And they have made a comeback.
jumpsuits or onesies?
Like, I don't know what women call them, but I think they call them jumpers or rompers.
Oh, like with the shorts? Those are the ones with the shorts.
No, I don't want to do the shorts.
That's what a romper is, though.
Okay. Then-
It's like a one piece and it's got shorts, but it's all like connected.
What's he laughing at?
That's true.
This dude's a ding dong.
No, I think
saving your
I
segment.
think my wife has like a pair of rompers,
like those a thing.
but that's like not pajamas. Like those are they wear them out.
Yeah, I just want to like a onesie.
Here's my problem with a onesie. If I'm being totally honest with you,
Yeah.
it's just bathroom access. Right? You gotta like take the whole thing off.
I'm an adult. I don't use the restroom that much.
A lot of adults use the restroom. I don't know what to tell you.
Not that much. 2-3 times a day and there's
You
a
only
zipper.
pee 2 or 3 times a day?
Yeah, that's probably safe.
How is that even possible? Are you okay?
So I don't at all here.
Yeah. So you just hold it, or are you dehydrated? What's happening?
I don't have to go.
I feel like that's low. That feels like very low.
Probably. I don't know.
I know my number is high because of the beats, but
Wow, we're gonna pick this apart too.
I'm astounded by the fact that you could only pee twice a day.
It's more than 2, but it's not 4.
So it's 2 or 3.
That's safe.
That seems aggressively low.
I don't think so.
I'm concerned about your kidney
Do you know
health.
what I think it is? I think it's teaching, or being in education.
You just learn not to pee all day?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
And travel.
Sure.
I just think I don't know.
You like condition your body. Is it one of those competitive things where it's like, I'm not going to pee today at all?
I do think it's a waste of time, so I will wait till the last second. That's fine though. Like that's not just
That thing wet.
It's not competitive. I just think it's a waste, and it's inconvenient.
It's a waste of time to go to the bathroom.
When you say it like that,
When I say
it sounds ridiculous. The way I say it is perfectly
when
normal.
I say the exact thing back to you that you said out loud.
But you don't include your sneeze pee?
I'm not that old.
You're what?
I'm not that old.
Shane, how old are
He's
you?
talking about people that sometimes get a trickle when they sneeze.
That is a thing I've heard of, but
yeah, it's gonna be some days or years, I hope.
unless you are very old
I am old.
or have given birth, that is not a common thing, Shane.
Jane is.
If that's something you're dealing with, you might want to see a doctor, buddy.
I don't know about this.
I don't.
I don't know about this. I'm still arguing with Josh.
I do. Amazing game. I do drink a lot of soda. I'm not a good example because having diabetes makes you pee a lot because your body's trying to get rid of the sugar.
Yeah.
But 2 to 3 seems aggressively low.
Can I nip this in the bud? Because
Sure.
this is.
I'm sorry.
This
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
This is vintage Josh.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Ohio State.
Yep.
Right. And I'm like, you And I'm still the guy that says Ohio State's got to have one they got to have one dominant performance in them, right? I say that a ton.
Yeah.
Been disjointed.
I don't think we've seen that yet, but
I said I thought they played well against IU. And my little contrarian buddy, he's taller than me, so he's not little. He goes, Ohio State has 2 wins over playoff teams and a 1-point loss to the number 1 team. I feel like they played well at times this year. And I had to respond to Josh, that's not what I said. Then I came back and asked him, given the roster and the talent they have, do you look at that team and say, oh, that's a team that maximizes, they play like their roster?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes back and he says, I have. I thought they had a great win at Penn State and dominated Indiana and one bad OPI away from winning at Oregon. Michigan is a whole nother thing, but they aren't in the tournament. Again, being better than the rest is not anything. Ask anybody that is in that program if they feel like they played up to their capability.
Yeah, it's about maximizing, right?
That's my whole.
That's the word we've used.
Yeah.
And listen, them not playing at their best might be good enough to win a national championship.
Against some.
It might be good enough.
Against some.
To win a national championship this year. It might be.
Do you want me to change my Georgia pick? Because I'm not, even though I don't. It doesn't sound like.
I mean, Carson Beck's definitely not playing. His elbow exploded.
You said definitely. You think they're just being coy? They just
yes, 100. No,
said they're preparing to play without him.
They are one. Yeah, they're just like, oh, he's gonna miss the quarterfinals. Yeah, he would miss the quarterfinals next year. Okay, his elbow exploded.
That's not true.
You're right. He'll probably be ready in 9 months. He's not ready in 4 weeks. Okay. I will. What would you like to bet? That no matter.
I wouldn't.
Right, because you know I'm right.
Hey,
I saw that.
I'm gonna take you up on that meal in New York.
I'll Venmo you $40. You can get whatever you want.
Good man. Bless your heart. That'd be 2 pizza slices for Zoe.
I saw that exact same injury happen to Brock Purdy.
This dude, see,
my dude is gonna need Tommy John.
Relax.
That his elbow. No, I'm serious.
Relax.
His elbow exploded.
It did not look good.
That UCL.
You might say that, Shane. You never know.
That UCL is made out of paper mache.
See, Josh started this.
That UCL is made out of string cheese. Like, it is gone.
Wow.
He is going, like, Dr. Andrews has already received a call, I guarantee you. That is what would you like to bet that he gets Tommy John surgery after the season?
I'm not betting you.
After the season, he gets Tommy John surgery. I'm not even saying he'll play or won't play. That after the season, he gets Tommy John surgery. Would you like to make that bet?
And I'll bet you that you lose that bet.
That's called a derivative, by the way.
I'm sick of your multisyllabic words.
So when you bet on the outcome of someone else's thing, that's a derivative.
Listen,
why are you betting on somebody else's thing?
Did you not think I knew what that meant?
It's how the housing market collapsed, by the way. But that's okay.
Well, I smell bad.
This whole segment needs a mulligan. It started
with onesies.
Yeah. And now I apparently don't have very high aptitude.
No, I'm telling for everybody else. You're not the only person listening. There's a lot of people.
You're lucky if it's just me.
What? Huh? What'd I do?
See, I feel another blowtorch moment coming with Ravi. I
was just trying to, not everybody knows what a derivative is in that sense.
Kobe said Ravi. So, can you believe Kobe's the guy that I defended for so long? Kobe's been out on DB all week. It's called balance. Balance.
You love that in a running back. Yeah. You don't love it in a commenter. What's the deal, DB?
Yeah. Kobe's just like, I'm an equal opportunity hater.
Explain that to me. Yeah.
He said you're winning that bet. I'm not making that bet.
I don't care if Ohio State wins the national championship or who they've beat this year. They haven't played one great game yet. A full great game. That has not happened.
I know.
That's true. Sorry, Josh.
I'm mortified at this whole segment.
So a derivative, never mind. Mike Sautter, NEB Preps, and Hurrdat Sports coming up next. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports and NEB Preps. Sautter, what's going on?
I don't know, because whoever wore this headset last has a big old head, like a bigger than Ravi head. A big head.
I think my head's slightly above average.
Random casual insults.
I just looked over at him. I was
fly
like,
across
you're
this,
getting it right now.
People don't even skip a beat.
Just drive-bys.
They just drive by, just chop a dude off.
Catching strays.
I was
like, all right.
I was like, geez, this thing was like huge.
Hey, my buddy just said we're impossible.
Who?
Also,
Josh.
guys, a onesie is the pajama onesie. A romper is not yes, it can be shorts, but it can be pants as well, and it is like a one piece. It's basically what we used to call overalls. Think of that, but it's
No, because rompers
Rompers have
have sleeves.
No,
Rompers have sleeves.
I'll entertain that.
Rompers have sleeves.
He's
They
just
can
talking
have
about
sleeves.
generally speaking.
The same
You're
idea.
pulling what you did on Josh. That's why he gets mad at us.
The same
Don't
idea.
be so specific.
Me?
I know that's what he's saying because I know his personality. Josh, I'm just busting.
I
your
think the
chops,
main
buddy.
difference between overalls and rompers are overalls are meant to be worn over all of your clothes, and
Yeah.
rompers are your
exactly.
clothes.
But
Unless you're
think
Johnny
of that.
Mitchell.
Think of an idea. It's the idea. Johnny Mitchell. That's
He didn't wear anything under his overalls. Oops.
it's
That'd
the
be
same
uncomfortable.
idea, right? Like
I don't know about
You gotta,
that.
like-
I'm just talking about a shirt.
Oh,
to go to the bathroom, you have to take the whole thing off.
that's all. Yeah, it's an ordeal.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not
out.
worth it.
I'm out on
It's not worth it. Especially
If you think I'm wearing that Batman thing that somebody just put on,
You said you were
I
going
want it to be comfortable. That's not comfortable.
I'll get you a nice, comfy one.
Cool.
Like I want it to have like the little soft,
little fuzzy, little,
yes,
little fleece.
the little things you can
It's called fleece.
rub off.
I don't know, man.
It's called fleece.
I don't know if that's what it's called. Fudge.
I got nothing
This
for you,
dude.
man.
But I'm with Asian Wyatt. He has it down. He knows exactly what I'm saying because he's raising little girls, and he said, "My girls are in daycare / preschool and have pajama day today. Once they're older, I'll give it the old face when they're wearing them as they walk out the door." Exactly. Right? Isn't that right, Jerome?
Sometimes I just like, all right, whatever.
I'll never be like that.
Actually, I'm not. I'm very much so like that doesn't match. Go upstairs and get different clothes.
Is there only one heavy in your house?
What do you mean?
Like that will lay the smack down?
I'm not gonna. I'd like to be married, so I'm not probably gonna say that out loud.
Blink twice if you're speaking against your will.
All I can think of is like Uma Thurman in Kill Bill.
I don't think that's fair for me to say.
Is there a cue card somewhere that you're like,
Dude,
no?
it was hemorrhaging.
My wife and I parent and discipline the children equally.
I'm probably a little louder
Well, that's not always
at times, most of the time.
the most effective, but anyway. So how are things, man?
Things are. I feel like I haven't seen you guys forever.
Well, you were busy last week, so you called.
I was at home. No, you guys were in the
Studio. Yeah, we were at
so I
headquarters.
was like, I don't know if there's enough room. So I just
Headquarters
stayed
is a nice little change up sometimes.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
bad.
I don't love the audio
No.
Yeah.
for us, and it's hard to get in and out of breaks.
home. Yeah.
But like the setup is
Yeah, it's
nice
fine.
change
Not
of
bad.
scenery.
Yeah.
We do
Especially we
podcasts.
got the shorter table that helped a little bit. Although it was a little small.
Yeah,
We were it was very
it's
close.
very very snug.
Yeah.
that big table.
No,
that's like a dining?
there's a little one like you
Oh,
maybe have
yeah.
coffee.
Because we didn't like the tall chairs.
Oh yeah.
The tall chairs are not comfortable.
Yeah, bar stools are not very comfortable.
No.
And I know neither one of you are familiar with Edith Ann, but Ravi was having
Oh.
an Edith Ann moment.
Don't know who that is.
I don't
Right.
know. I don't know
You
what that
look
is.
like an adult sitting in a very low chair
Oh,
and table.
Yeah, I did. Because I tried to sit in one of the shorter chairs at the big table, and I was like, "Hey guys,
Hmm.
You know what?
well, actually,
It's Lily Tomlin. She used to be funny.
Lily
I got
Tomlin."
nothing.
Yeah, Lily Tomlin. Google.
Oh, I know who Lily Tomlin is.
Google Edith Ann.
Edith Ann.
That's who you look like.
Not sure. I know a lot about.
That's who you look like sitting
Oh,
at the table.
Yeah, okay, I get that's funny.
Oh, okay.
That's a good
Yeah.
reference.
Thank
Okay.
you.
It's dated, but it's pretty good.
It's dated from like
I'm
Well,
about
you
over
have,
you.
you have an old
1994.
soul.
I'm about over you. I really am.
Ravi, were you alive in 1994?
In 94? Yes, I was alive in 94.
Wait, he's not.
I'm just. What were you gonna say?
I'm not his last radio partner.
Close, but not what I was going to say. Let's move on.
I'm not on the other radio
Andrew?
station.
Andrew was born in the 2000s.
You can't help yourself.
No, he
can
was
you?
late 90s, I think. I think it's like 99,
24, 20. Yeah, like.
but just barely.
Oof.
Some people on the air were
It's just
born
like
in
when
the
me
2000s.
keeping me out of like being a millennial by a year because I was born, luckily, not
Because
in
that's important to you. It's not how you act.
yeah.
That whole year delineation thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey, guess what? I know what delineation means too. Is that crazy?
That's different than a derivative. You know
right.
that, right?
I understood.
Also different than deliberation.
Wow. Okay.
Also different than deliverance.
Also different than douchebagitation.
That's not a word.
Like Bilbo Baggins?
I'm like
Lord
Jesse.
of the Rings?
I'm like Jesse Jackson, just making up words. Now, Jesse, you know that isn't a word.
I don't know why I just thought of this.
Well, I
And this
need
is
you to
totally not sports.
Jogatize.
This is totally not sports, but
Strategery.
Neither has the last minute 20.
that just made me think of
Onesies.
the Jamie Foxx special on Netflix I just saw the other day. It was really good.
So it's good to see him make a comeback.
It was really good.
I go all the way back to like straight from the Foxhole. Did you ever see that stand up?
No, I don't think
He
so.
had on like a blue and leather or
don't
blue and
think I
black
saw it.
leather setup, and he played at the piano at the end, Mary Mary.
Oh, so kind of. I did like the end of it. Have you seen it? The
No.
new one? You need to watch it. It's good.
It's
It's emotional and yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't get a lot of downtime these days.
It's an hour,
Oh, is that all I need?
hour and 10.
5:50 on Saturday.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got. I mean,
Maybe in the morning.
you're going to be awake in the middle of the night anyway. Let's not.
Yeah, listen, the struggle's real.
I'm aware.
Catch some sleep.
Catch these hands.
That'll put you to
I'm
sleep.
sorry, that was totally uncalled for.
You're
This is a bit of an overreaction.
I am so sorry.
catching hands could put you to sleep. So that would help.
That was not necessary.
That would help.
My bad. Jerome.
That's
That
what
would help.
happens when I make jokes sometimes. I'm like, ooh, that wasn't necessary, but I'm going to own it.
Hey, I got a sports question. When is the Usyk and Tyson Fury fight? Is that tomorrow?
Are you watching the promo specials of like the fight behind the fight?
I've just seen a little bit of stuff.
Tyson Fury is a hard guy not to cheer for.
Yeah, the fact that he's iced out his whole family and wife for 3 straight months, that's crazy.
I think it started with his dad, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're a tough hang. He's like,
I appreciate that he has overcome a lot.
yeah.
I appreciate the like openness about some of the like anxiety and depression and the alcoholism and like coming all the way back from that.
There's a lot of isms in there.
Yeah, he's
I
got a lot
don't
going on.
know that he's like a great guy that I want to spend time with.
Fair.
Like if he got knocked on his ass, I wouldn't be super upset about it.
Wow.
Like good for you. Way to overcome. But like you can overcome a lot and still be a garbage person.
Yeah.
Not like a sanitation worker. I mean like a garbage human.
Yeah.
It seems like he might be flirting on that line a little bit. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if he's got one more in him though.
Probably needs to just give it up.
No, so I don't want to say that either.
It is tomorrow, by the way.
It is. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I just don't. I don't know if he's got one more. He's gonna have to summon it though, because I think Usyk is more confident this time around.
Usyk
than he was the first time.
Is that on DAZN?
And he's gonna stay in his chest.
Or
so
what is it on?
I believe it's on DAZN.
Whatever.
yeah,
it's
it
called.
is. It is. That's
That
what it
stinks.
is. Why?
I don't like
That's
that.
the promotion.
Just
I
go
know,
get it.
I'm not buying it.
Just go get it.
Not buying it.
All right.
Why?
Well,
I'll just. You know what I'll do? It's probably.
it's actually a pretty cheap pay-per-view. It's like $40.
Who would you have made?
I'll probably
Who would you have made the fave?
In that one? Probably Fury.
What about you?
Didn't Usyk just beat him?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd make him the fave?
Yeah.
What would you set the line? And I'll tell you what it is.
Oh, 140, something low.
145.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Something
nice.
Very
Well
good,
done,
Jerome.
Sautter.
I don't know if you know this. I do like boxing.
I love boxing.
I like watching.
So, Captain in the stream just randomly referenced like my favorite boxer of all time. That has to be a guy that knows me.
Let me guess who it is. Sorry, you already told me I was going to be a jerk and name somebody I knew you hated, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it's Bernard Hopkins.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Self-made.
Hmm.
Got pardoned.
Let's say
Yeah.
I mean, fits my did it his way.
another guy that overcame a lot.
Fits my
Fought for a really long time.
love Bernard Hopkins.
Really long time.
So anyway,
Where did he end up? Light heavy mostly?
yeah,
Like that's where he ended up?
yeah,
Yeah.
He was best at 60 in my
Yeah.
opinion, 1668. But how? Speaking of weights,
Mhm.
do you is there
Talking
a-
wrestling?
Yeah, is there a lookout guy? Because some of these weights seem to be foregone conclusions. Right? You can kind of see the maneuvering above and below. Like
People
gotta
are starting to.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta keep your eye on guy
Oh,
or a school perhaps.
well, prep in Class A is kind of
They're deep,
really big favorite right now.
and they kind of turned over. They have a nice little
A lot of young, yes,
nice
a
little
lot
youth
of young.
movement coming.
I think Lincoln East is probably the one to look out for. Stopped over at the Council Bluffs Classic last weekend on Saturday for the semifinals.
Try to strong arm Zoe into going again. More poor parents. On my part.
And
So you
and
want to go to Council Bluffs? No.
East didn't have a champion, but they won the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, they just are really good. And geez, Kyler Lordson was ridiculously good. So Logan Glenn had a nice showing. He beat a kid that beat him the week before. But East is kind of one of those, like, they don't have their upper weights. We just talked to Coach Rutledge on Monday
Yeah, because you
night.
did just have your pod too.
Yeah,
with
we had
Muntz.
Rutledge and we had Jeff Rutledge from Lincoln East and Kyler Lordson and Logan Glenn, and then we finished with my main man Cody from NE Russell. So but Rutledge was he's like, our upper weights, they have like 5 guys. They just don't know what to do with with all about 192, like in that same weight. So I don't know. I mean, if you look at like the hammers, it's Tyson Terry's headliner, Lordson's a headliner, Cade Ziola is a headliner. Ziola and Tony Palmer will end up wrestling each other at some point this year. Now, they're, Scott's B, South Sioux City's A, but they're in the same conference. Yeah. So they'll at least duel or conference tournament or something. And I think that would be awesome.
My gut says that Ziola's length is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Because he's deceptively strong.
He's gotten so much bigger.
For an angular guy.
Yeah.
And he is a strong son of a
He's gotten a lot bigger, too, since, like, the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at, 90, and then now he's wrestling 215. I mean, he's going to be a ridiculously good heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like one that you don't normally see.
Who can still move like
the quickness
a light
and
guy.
speed
That's
and
like
stuff.
the John Jones aspect.
Oh, he's gonna be amazing. Like it'll be really fun to watch.
Which, by the way, Dana's guaranteeing that Aspinall and Jones happens.
Really interesting.
Does John Jones know that?
When you run the whole sport, you get to.
When John Jones runs the whole sport.
Well,
because you're going to have to pay John Jones.
But that's
retirement money.
That's the point, though, right? Is you can do that when you're Dana White. Yeah. Is you can force guys into that and be like, yeah, I might have to pay you, but you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nice thing about UFC versus boxing. It's like he's going to make the match if he wants.
Does it and like this.
We haven't seen John Jones not like a guy in fight since Cormier.
Yeah,
he ruined him.
Saw how that went.
Yeah, saw him.
I think that's another side meal potential with our guy, Vegas insider Brian Edwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves Aspinall.
Does he?
And I love Jones.
That is the one thing we were actually just chatting in the YouTube chat about, because we were talking about boxing or whatever. And I've always been way more into boxing than I have MMA.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing about UFC that I envy, is that you always get the good matchups.
Yeah.
Because it is one governing body, they control everything. And there's some drawbacks to that too. A lot of times guys don't get paid the way they would in other combat sports. But man, you are always going to get the best fights. And that if boxing still had a setup where you always got the best fights, it would be a totally different thing.
100%. Let me hop into basketball.
Okay.
Jerome, let's start at the top with the rankings, your coach's rankings.
West Side, yeah.
Surprise?
I mean, somebody has to be, right?
So my question is
no, I mean, because what I'm saying is there's
not
three.
to be as disrespectful as Jerome. It's
wasn't.
just kind of a free for all.
Yeah.
At the top until it settles.
There's no separation.
That's what I meant. Is
Yeah.
so.
That's what he meant.
That's what I said.
What I meant by somebody has to be was it started with Millard North, and then it was Papio South, and now it's West Side because those other two teams lost. I do think West Side's very good, and I said that like after going to their practice, I thought to begin the year, if I was doing a ranking, I would have put Millard North 1 and West Side 2 to start the year.
What do you think their hiccup is?
Millard North?
Yeah.
I think it's toughness. I think they need to be a little tougher.
So if you had to take Millard North, West Side, Prep, or Bellevue West, who is the best team right now?
West Side.
West Side.
Right now?
Right now, today. Yeah.
Long term, you think that holds? Or that they're capable of holding that throughout the course of the season? Yeah.
They got to shoot it from the outside.
And at some point, Bellevue West is going to grow up.
Yeah.
'Cause they're young in
Dude,
some key spots.
They've played. I mean,
Gauntlet.
Well, West Side's going to grow up a little bit.
Their schedule has been brutal.
West Side's going to grow up a little bit too, right? I mean,
Lee
is a freshman?
Yeah. I mean, Lee was 1 of 6 last night from the free throw line. That's not going to happen. He had 4 points, and they still won.
Yeah. So, but I liked your pick or your call last week with Dada.
Yeah.
London.
London.
And I'm partial to London because I see what he does when they're not actually practicing.
He can really shoot the ball.
He's always in the gym.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's always in the gym.
And
so as long as he doesn't burn out.
Yeah. He's going to be a dude. I told his dad this. Actually, when I saw him after they beat Scott, them coming back, Scott punched them in the mouth.
Yeah,
hard,
14-0.
Real fast.
Anytime you see Coach Simons use 2 timeouts early, that guy's not a timeout guy.
It was in the first
Scott's good too. I mean,
they just were bullying him.
Yeah. And then they came all the way back and won. And Donnie Barfield was huge. Had 2 pretty big dunks. One just on a kid's head. I don't know why the kid jumped, but yeah. And then
not everybody makes business decisions.
Yeah,
you know?
I would have just ran through that one. And then, but Emery Geddick has been really good
at the ball.
He had 24 last night. It was really good. So
big fan.
Yeah.
So he's a kid that I would talk to after practice, after games. Hey, stay with it. You're going to be really good. I just don't want to be your biggest fan.
Yeah.
Like I would always tell him that.
He's going to be just fine.
He's just one of those guys that has to understand I belong.
Well,
once he figures out that he belongs.
What do you say? You say, I can't believe in you more than you believe in you.
Right. He is highly skilled.
Yeah. And then there's teams that maybe have a losing record right now.
Are you surprised Central had to go so young so early?
Central is not. Yeah, a little bit. Very. They're not the same. They're not. I mean, they'll probably be better as the year goes on. They got a big one. They play Millard North tonight. That's a big one kind of for both teams coming into the break here.
I think it's much more important for Millard North.
Yeah, you gotta win that one. I mean, Fremont beat Central, and Fremont's not awful by any means, but it's just that was it's like that's not the same Central that we saw at the end of the year last year, right? So they're just so much younger. But
Papio South need a third scoring option.
Papio South needs Reese Kircher to get healthy. So him not playing has been a thing.
How do you explain Papio? They got
huge kids,
good wins.
Yeah. Good wins,
and then a couple
tough
of
losses,
couple head scratchers.
Yeah, the Bellevue West game was a little whoa! It was 20-0. It was like, what is happening? To start the game, and then they beat North last night. They're good. Coach Pope does a really good job.
I'm big fan.
Huge fan of him. The one Millard South is the team though, and I think I said it this summer. They're gonna be pretty good. Towards the end of the year, they got
a couple of head scratchers too, though.
I know, but they got.
But they're not even all the way healthy.
I mean, they just smacked Prep the other day.
I know. I believe me, I know. And then they lost to Papio.
And then how does those two things? But
Millard South will get healthy, and they'll get better with basketball.
Jensen's coming. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's kind of like with Scott. They lost their first 2, and it's like, well, what happened? Well, I don't know. They haven't been practicing like everyone else has. They're a little late starting. but they're used to that. They do it all the time.
Are you safe? Are you going to safely say it's Scott and everyone else in B?
Norris.
Okay.
Norris is pretty good. Norris is really good. I think it's those two, and then
they're gonna have to limit Scott's ability to score.
Is there a gap between Scott and Norris?
Yeah, I think so. And then you're like Elkhorn North Bennington is in that group. The EMC tournament actually starts today.
Yeah,
which is weird. But
did they explain why they did it, the scheduling that way?
The EMC tournament, I haven't heard, but it just doesn't make sense. You're playing a tournament, and then
you're gonna chill,
and then you're gonna chill for a week, and it just I don't know. I'd rather just knock it all out. But that one, you have Norris, Elkhorn North, Blair's dangerous in there. Who else is in the EMC? Hastings. Why can't I just think of this off the top of my Elkhorn High? Some okay teams in there. So that tournament.
What do you like in C?
Well, I would say Ashland Greenwood. They lost to Wahoo last night. But Wahoo's in B now.
Yeah. And I was going to say that's not a
bad loss.
No.
Wahoo's going to be good. They'll be just fine.
They had the right to ship emotionally too.
Yeah.
Last handful of weeks.
Really tough. That's something that you don't ever want to go through. That's just it's as kids. And then obviously they're one of those football teams, right? So Lincoln Lutheran is C1 this year. And they were in the final in C2 last year, got runner up.
Who did I just say? Was that Jay Terry? It was somebody.
Dutzman's good.
I said death taxes and Lincoln Lutheran.
Yeah. Jesse Bowens is a good coach there. So Auburn obviously is
again another death and taxes.
Yeah, and then Ogallala with Sawyer Smith, right? Is that his name? They're dangerous enough. So Donovan Trumbull just lost.
Coach Gillen and company.
Yeah, they just fire it and play fast and go. I like that style. I like him. So I know he rubs people the wrong way sometimes.
I'm with you on Gillen.
Like
I'm the same way.
He's a good dude.
But I've known him.
Yeah,
since I was in college. So
I don't. In A though, it's.
You think Andy's tough? You should meet Charlie.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Back to A in boys basketball. It is such a toss up year, and we haven't had it for a long time.
But is it though?
What I mean by that is, I think Elkhorn South, who hasn't won a game, is still actually pretty okay.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that too.
And Millard West is 2-3, and I think they're probably better.
Millard West is a team, as we saw last night with West. This just isn't going to be fun to play.
No, yeah, and then Matt Erickson's coming off the bench. Elkhorn South and Westview
he's a giant.
Yeah, Elkhorn South and Westview is the first round of the Metro Holiday Tournament,
and it wouldn't surprise you.
Westview's pretty good, and they'll have Amir Martin at that time, which helps them. But Westview's a team probably we need to maybe talk a little more.
And if Amir is shooting it well
and under control emotionally,
they have some scoring options.
Yeah. So the Metro tournament could be pretty wild ride.
That's DB. That's Mike Sautter. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter here with us as well at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. At the casino in Lincoln or in Omaha. Make sure you get out to Warhorse Casino or check them out, warhorsecasino.com, to get a full list of promotions and house rules. DB.
You remember, so here's the thing. Remember we all had, this is when you were sampling with us in our former life, but we all had that one boss together that was like, hey, be careful how you spend your downtime during breaks, because it's draining over time and it's emotional.
Yeah.
I was not careful how I spent that break.
Right there.
It's clearly not. I'll never get that 40 seconds back and listening to that.
Nope. And now it puts you in a bad mood.
It's fine. I can shake it.
You gotta shake it off.
Gamification. Guess what?
Got a T-swizzle. Shake that thing off.
Wipe the slate clean and dial back in.
Clear the mechanism. Billy Chappell. Let's go.
It's like when Mike Peters at South ran one up under my chin 3 times.
Yeah.
And I was so competitive, I swung at it. I'm like, I'm going to get this guy.
Probably not a good idea.
Nope. Next time, off speed, dirt, up under the chin. 6 pitches, 2 outs. I'm like, damn, this guy. Tell me just a fastball. Not that I remember that.
I like how when like you're a hitter and you're just getting owned by off-speed stuff, you're like, throw a fastball, coward. Because that's not a you thing. That's every baseball player I've ever met in my life.
And he was yoked, too, and he always had the short baseball sleeves, and he threw gas. And, I mean, he had like a rubber arm, too.
Yeah.
And that was just one of those at-bats.
Only throwing off-speed stuff because it knows I crush his fastball.
And he wasn't afraid to throw it under my hands.
Yeah.
Which, was a tough place to make a living. But
that's the most baseball guy thing ever. Throw me a fastball, coward.
17 minutes, no points, 2 rebounds, 1 turnover, 1 foul.
That is a Mason Miller.
Yeah, that was against Georgetown.
That's not a good line.
0 for 2.
Shout out your boy.
2
Hey,
rebounds.
nice. Good job. Proud
Yeah, Mr. Insincere.
Proud of you.
I should leave you hanging.
I would leave it there the whole show because I'm petty. And then you do it just because you're annoyed with me.
Say, hey,
Proud of you.
That's like Cam's. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Which, by the way, was on a commercial last night.
Cam?
The oh, no. It was,
Cam
Like
Newton?
on TV?
It's probably Family Guy.
Cam
Braham.
Cam Bam?
And at the end of the commercial, they go, oh, no. I go, oh, my gosh. That's flipping Cam, being sarcastic with your boy DB.
That was funny, though. We enjoy it.
So what did we go last night? 2-1?
2-1, I think. I think we went 2-1.
Chargers, Sam Houston, and Oakland sold.
Chargers you got lucky on that.
Yeah, is that what I got?
Uh-huh.
So when it's an L and guys miss free throws down the stretch or they inexplicably
You got
salt the
unlucky.
clock.
It's
Okay.
like,
I just was.
Oh, you should have known.
I just want to make sure we're on this.
Like when you
we're
miss
on the
North
same
Carolina
page.
because North Carolina can't make a free throw down the stretch.
North
Like,
Carolina
oh, man.
can't get
Yeah,
a
you
rebound.
mean when the 90%?
You should have known.
Hey, how about that?
You're so small.
I mean, not to go all volleyball, but feel free to just grab that thing.
Just jump.
3 possessions in a row?
That's rough.
Not great, man.
Great. Not great.
And offensive rebounding is pretty difficult.
I'm starting to wonder about your boy, Hubert Davis.
Starting.
About your favorite UNC coach of all time,
Who
Hubert
are they
Davis.
going to go get? Steve Kerr? Oh, I just threw it out. I have no idea. They got Belichick over there. So
Probably
who
not.
else
Probably
can
not going to get Steve
look,
Kerr.
Phil Jackson? They're going to get Phil Jackson?
Well, according to Robbie, he can't coach.
That's not what I said.
Phil Jackson.
He can only
That's not
coach
what I
with
said.
good players.
That's not what I said.
What?
He's right. That's not what he said.
Just because you're used to seeing Hubert Davis doesn't mean you got to blaspheme me.
Wow.
All right? I know you're in a bad mood.
Be worse.
Be careful how you
Good
spend.
morning again.
Be careful how you spend your breaks, DB.
Oh, no.
Let's get to some NFL.
Shall we?
We got some.
Idoites.
We got some lines this week that I don't feel great about.
Why?
Because I think
you're figuring out free money.
I think they're a little stinky.
Okay. All right.
Tell me, does this line stink or not? Vikings, 3-point favorites on the road against Seattle.
Yeah.
Does that line stink?
No.
Okay,
it's a good line.
You're good on
Geno's
Vikings.
playing.
That's a good line. Geno Smith will play. Vikings are Seahawks will be desperate. That line's right. That's a good line.
You like Vikings or Seahawks there?
The line's right.
So you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Another one that seems a little stinky to me, although the health situation with Detroit is a problem.
Detroit basketball.
Yep, Detroit. That's how people say it. Lions -6.5.
I was thinking something else that had to do with like peanuts with the D.
The Lions are 6.5. The Lions are 6.5 point favorites over the Bears at Chicago.
That line is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Injuries to the Lions brings that thing all the way down.
Yep. How about them not putting Montgomery on the IR?
Yeah, that was weird.
I think they can get him back for the playoffs.
I don't know.
Tough guy.
What's the MCL with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's gonna be tough.
That is.
The MCL on a running back's tough.
Yeah.
Like the lateral there is gonna be
run laterally, run straight.
Yeah, 95 Okie State. Our MCLs are tough.
It is. I know. I just feel like David Montgomery just puts his head down.
Owen James played with one all year.
Yeah.
They suck.
Tough.
It's not great. Don't love the MCL there.
So Lions.
No,
because if you like the Lions, it's a stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stay away.
Texans plus 3.5 against the Chiefs.
He Freudian. He said cheats.
I don't think they cheat. I don't know what happened there.
Total Freudian.
I didn't mean to.
The cheats.
I like Andy Reid.
It's in Kansas City, right?
It's in Kansas City. Mahomes is cleared.
He still isn't going to be able to move all that well.
We thought that last year
in the playoffs he was.
That is really interesting because I feel like
I gotta change.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Houston the team that we've convinced ourselves? Oh, if they put it together,
yeah. Mm-hmm. But they haven't consistently put it together this year.
That's interesting. 3 and a hook in Arrowhead.
Saturday night, short week, little short week. Mahomes coming off the ankle.
He's fine. He's the least of my concerns. They're starting to run the ball.
Given context, that's all. Pacheco's back.
I think that line's right.
Okay, another stay away.
Yeah, I think that line's right.
The other Saturday night game, your Steelers, 6.5-point dogs at Baltimore.
Yeah, that's a Ravens play because there's two things at play there. Number one, the line is a little inflated.
A little high, yeah.
And number two, Lamar Jackson is absolute trash against the Steelers. That line has no business being where it's at.
Being as high as it is?
That game has been they're always
super close.
One score games, but 6.5 seems on the big end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing I felt about Philadelphia last week. It's big for a reason.
So you play the Ravens.
I would play the Ravens.
So which one of those 4 defenses you playing tomorrow? Just that's a personal question.
It would not be the Ravens.
Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, or Steelers?
Given the matchup,
Texans. That's what I was leaning towards. But
I would probably play the Chiefs.
Chiefs?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Thanks.
Get a little weather.
I needed my.
Yeah.
I would probably play the Chiefs.
Working on a little lineup.
Although, you'd be surprised. They've not taken the ball away.
No, they really haven't.
Their turnover margin for their record, you talk about, it's just, listen.
That should also play Lamar.
It's just a team that doesn't make sense.
Lamar. Yeah, all the peripheral numbers are fluky
But it could be like last year. They didn't start
playing well.
They didn't start taking the ball away into the playoffs.
Yeah, and then they just didn't matter. They were wagging at that point. Last one for me, Eagles minus 3.5 Commanders.
Where is that?
That's at Washington.
I like the Commanders.
You like the Commanders there?
I like the Commanders.
They need it more.
Yeah.
That's the other thing this time of the year that you kind of have to start looking at is you brought it up with Seattle being desperate is who needs it, right? Because Eagles, yeah, you're going for the number 1 seed, but you're 12-2. You're in the playoffs. Like, you're fine.
Yeah, that's a tight line week. Far.
Those are the best games, and there might be some line inequality on some of the down ballot games that aren't going to be as compelling. But for games that people are going to actually watch, like, lines are tough this week.
Yeah, if you can get Notre Dame at 6.5,
all day.
All day.
All day.
All day and then some.
That's a lock from DB.
Lock it up.
That's
the Domers.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Matt Vrzal coming up next to wrap up the week on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show and wrapping up the week as we always do on a Friday here on Hurrdat Sports Radio with our friend Matt Vrzal, former Husker owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. Verz, what's going on, bud?
Whoa. Are we on Star Wars? I felt like we were a Star Wars movie first.
Is that an R2-D2 moment?
I'll say it sounded like we had some technical difficulties with Verz there. We'll work on that.
My man just kicked himself out too. He's like, this ain't working.
Peace.
This didn't sound very good.
We're gone.
It literally sounded like lightsabers fighting each other.
It did.
I've only seen Star Wars one time.
Oh, cool guy. I've only seen Star Wars.
What is that called? What is that called again?
What?
Anti-Star Wars people?
No, like when you have those
like humble brag,
those hot takes about like Well, I've never seen Pulp Fiction the whole way through.
I've never seen Pulp Fiction once.
Blind spots.
No,
I don't know what we're going for here.
It's a term I'm thinking of.
I've never seen Pulp Fiction once. Don't care.
I've never seen it the whole way through. But anyway, there's a term for that.
I don't know.
Fudge.
Dean Blandino.
I've been called worse. Oh wow.
It's just out of control.
Was that not it?
No.
I'm searching. I'm just throwing.
You guys
something
are
at the
ready
wall.
to go home for a week.
That wasn't my doing. That was.
I didn't say it was yours.
That's his doing.
What
he's been like this all week.
What I do?
I did say you had a big head.
What I do?
Yeah, you did, and kept it moving too.
I didn't do anything. I'm just out here. Just
so you won't get fined. Shane, where are we with Matthew Pichu?
Shane?
Shane? He's going to try it again.
Why is Shane walking in there?
No, I'm not walking. Why is Shane sitting in here?
All right. Is he coming back? What's going on, Shane?
He's working on it. It should be just a second.
Okay. Good talk.
No, it's going to be a shorty.
Yeah.
Hey, so
shot A.
Please never do that again.
Yeah, that's not.
R2D2, what's up?
We may not. There'll be no Maddie.
I mean, we have telephones, right? Telephones still work.
So I do have a question on why we can interact with our users. So Kansas City, what game is a Tuesday? Because I get the Wednesday game.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh well, they have played every day of the week but Tuesday.
Because Monday's easy, Saturday, Sunday's easy.
They get the Wednesday, Thursday.
They got the Thursday.
They did the Friday.
When did they do the Friday? Oh, was that Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Day after Thanksgiving? Yeah, I don't know when. I don't think they've played on Tuesday. I don't think so. Maybe that might be the outlier. Do we have Verse? We good?
He's here.
Hi, Matt.
We've got our guy, Matt Vrzal. What's up, buddy?
Nothing. What's you guys?
Wait. What happened? Like, do you know what was going on?
Everything's good on my end. It's your guys' end. Because even this audio is muffled right now.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I think this is our last day of.
Thank God. Oh, sorry.
Whoa. Yeah, they won't play on a Tuesday, by the way, the Chiefs. That's like virtually impossible.
Wow, really, Matt? What I was going to say is us redoing the wiring and configuration on our end.
I'm struggling to hear you.
Okay.
Shane, do we just want to punt this?
Shane, yeah, we may have, tell Matty we'll get him next time.
No, you're good right there. Don't move. Keep your head facing that way. I can hear you there.
Wow, are you serious?
It's like when you're holding your phone up outside of the car, like, I need cell service.
This idiot just said keep your head right there.
We're trying to make a cell phone call in 1999 right now.
Why do you say hurtful words, Damon?
What?
Why do you say hurtful words?
Oh, my gosh. Really?
You call people idiots.
That's what we're on?
Richard faces. I mean, that's just mean.
No, I didn't text Richard face. You text that to me.
That's fine. I'll put the receipts out.
Oh, wow.
At least I'm pretty sure.
No.
Now I have to go back and check.
Well, let me check.
It's got to go back.
I almost went super childlike and was like, "Well, you called me at first." Did I do that?
Did you hit him with the "I know you are, but what am I"? Like, what happened there?
I don't know. But there's so many. God, we talk to each other too much. I can't.
Well, you don't answer phone calls, so I got to text you.
It's not true.
100% true.
Very true.
I only have so much downtime in my brain. I only have so much bandwidth.
Oh, here we go.
I think I called
Here
him the
we
other
go.
day, and I'm still waiting for a call back.
I only have so much bandwidth, Maddie. I can't focus sometimes.
Stop.
It's true.
It's all them ginormous words you have in your head that nobody knows.
Like derivative.
You got to delete a few of those.
I got one thing I'm gonna delete. Hey, so are you surprised Nebraska hasn't had a offensive lineman portal pickup outside of a long snapper? Don't act like I asked you a hard question.
You did. You asked me a frustrating question.
Oh, sorry.
I just with what the poll is, got me stuttering. With
Spit it out.
Calm down. Stop yelling in the microphone. With what the portal is, Bishop, with what the portal is you have a chance to upgrade. You have a chance to upgrade at a position, and I think if you go and you honestly evaluate, and there's no nice, in sports and in life, nothing is nice and nothing is fair. Okay. But if I'm evaluating film and I look at somebody, I'm like, man, that is better than what I have. I have to go make a run at that, and because I can improve us right now. I can get better. I can do these things. I have to take that chance, and it's just honestly for survival. But you have to go out and better yourself every day. The portal gives teams like Nebraska that may struggle with depth or may struggle with top end talent or may need to improve rapidly to that opportunity. Like, everybody wants to be pissed at the portal. It's like, oh God, these kids can leave. I look at it as an opportunity. Like, if you can go out and find better, get better. It's very simple to me, but I'm a simple person. I'm not that complex. So I don't know. I would love to see him be more active with the offensive line out there, but I'm not coaching there, so I don't know.
Verz, what would be your level of concern if they don't end up getting anyone else?
Same as it is every year. I mean, it's you just, and here's something. Since we're in this thing of losing here in Nebraska, here's what I want to have happen. Let's lose the off season, right? Because we win the off season all the time. We have hope and we have all this stuff. We're going to do this, and we're 10 wins, and we're this, that, the other. Let's just lose the off season. Say, hey, we just practiced. Nothing happened but practice and lifting weights and running and getting better. Okay? No hype, no nothing. What are you? We're 6-6, potentially 7-6. That's what we are. And then let's go build from there instead of getting the hype train going and getting everybody's hopes up. Because it's depressing to me. Like, it is. My teams suck. Like, I'm a Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, Husker fan. I need a dub bad. But I need something positive. I've moved from volleyball, who did not have their best night last night, which is very unfortunate, but you had it to take, and you didn't take it. Yeah. So now I've moved on to men's and women's basketball, and Mikey and Damon, you both know, and Ravi too, you probably all three know how little I like basketball. So that's what my life is right now. I'm cheering for basketball, which is possibly the dumbest sport in the world.
Okay. I have a question back to the offseason.
I might be the biggest. I might donate money to the bowling team because we're good at that.
I have a question about the offseason. Who is responsible? Yeah. Who do you feel is responsible for the overhype winning the offseason every single offseason for the last 25 years?
It's a combination of two things. It's a social media team that does a nice job of putting out factoids and a fan base that is just rabid to not be losers anymore.
Okay.
And we glam on to any ray of hope that things are better. When at the end of the day, the only thing that makes it better is the W or the L on the field. So credit to them. I mean, I think there's 70 people in the football staff, so they got a lot of those doing that because they get everybody hyped up.
Do you think maybe less press conference availability type stuff in the off season would kind of slow down that hype, or what's the solution?
No, I think harder questions. I think questions that kind of push the envelope and say, hey, why you're saying this? What in your mind or your expertise? You can spin it. You don't have to be combative.
Right.
Hey, Coach, you've coached for a long time. You've seen a lot of things. What makes you feel this is different? What makes you feel that this is really you're over the hump? Because we have heard this before, but obviously something in your years of coaching, you've seen something that's leading you to this statement, because that's a bold statement. Boom. Nailed it.
I like the quiet off-season thing though, right? Where it's just practice. That's and it may be like that.
I'd go radio silent. I would tell the kids and the coaches, I'm just here so I don't get fined. That's all I would say for answers.
Like because there's not going to be a ton of access. I don't think there's going to be this astronomical amount of portal additions. This may be exactly what you want, because to already hear Holgorsen talk about January, February, and March lets me know that they're already pretty dialed. You know what I mean about just going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
That's our guy, Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Pison's Pizzeria. Verse, we appreciate your time as always. Enjoy your holidays.
See you, boys. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Matty.
That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Mike Sautter here as well. That's it for Hurrdat Sports for the week. We will be back on Monday here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln.